Seth Lugo was taken out of the game in the 6th inning with 87 pitches and leading 1-0 and handing it over to Carlos Hernandez. No matter who had pitched recently, I would have taken Seth Lugo with 120 pitches over Carlos Hernandez in that situation, and they had just gotten swept by the Rangers. They beat the Marlins, and it was like, oh my God, they scored 4 runs. This is all turned around. They're now the 27 Yankees. They figured it out. They're the best offense that has ever offensed before, and if there's ever an offense, this is the offense. And we were sort of losing our minds because they hit 3 home runs, but it wasn't typically how they had been winning games by just, mashing a bunch of home runs. That's not what they're doing. They're not the Orioles to hit 60 home runs in a month. That's not the Royals. They hit 3 in one game, and it was like, oh, that's awesome. And to me, it was a little bit at the time, when we were talking about it on Wednesday, it felt like it was fool's gold because they were 1-6, 2-8 in their last 10 games after that loss on Tuesday against the Marlins. And I was upset with Matt Quatraro and the move. I was upset in how the Royals were playing, certainly. It was a 2-week buildup of me sort of just like, this game, not a big deal, it's a long season. This game, not a big deal, it's a long season. This game, not a big deal, it's a long season. See, they won. Okay, back to losing. This game, not a big deal, it's a long season. They've got this buffer they've created. They've won enough games to give them this wiggle room, to give them this margin for error. And then it all just sort of went away. And then they were outside of the wild card, and they lost to the Marlins. So that game on Wednesday, was the 8th inning the biggest inning of the season on Wednesday? Because they were down 1-0 to the Marlins until that 8th inning and that 2-out triple from Bobby. And then the single, and the single, and the single, and the double, and a walk, and 7 straight batters reaching base with 2 outs, and they score 5 runs. They win 5-1, and they go on to take 3 of 4 from the Guardians. I know the old adage of momentum's only as good as your next day's starting pitcher. But what we talked about on Thursday, Jack, you weren't in, but Sterling, you were in. What we talked about on Thursday was Wednesday felt more like the Royals, how they had won before, rather than Monday's hitting 3 home runs. It was keep the line moving, great at bats, doing whatever it takes to get on base, stringing at bats together for an inning. Because we talked about how many times they batted around and scoring 7 runs in an inning. Like the first month, it was like the Royals have scored 7 runs in the inning 3 times, and the rest of Major League Baseball has done it 4. The Royals have batted around 5 times already. The rest of Major League Baseball has done it 8. And it's like, wow, this offense, it's what they're just sort of passing the baton, hand the baton, keep it going, keep the line moving, etc. Wednesday felt more like this is how the Royals have done it. If Bobby Witt pops up in the 8th inning, because it was the first pitch. We've talked about the first pitch and being a little too antsy. I don't know what we're talking about today. I don't know if they win 3 or 4 from the Guardians. But I think right now, I'd have to say the 8th inning against the Marlins at this point is maybe the most important inning they've played so far this year. Anybody? Jack?
Yeah, I mean, there was so much going into that game to begin with because of the way they had lost on Tuesday night, where the bullpen had imploded a little bit and you needed to find a way to get rhythm going into that series against Cleveland. I mean, they were facing a 4A guy on the mound, and he shut him out for 5 innings.
Yep. Yeah, and that was very annoying to watch.
Yeah, and he didn't have impressive stuff. There was nothing that really stood out. But then that 8th inning opens up, and they're able to carry it into this weekend. And if that doesn't happen, we are talking about something completely different. We are talking about a team that is still probably on a skid. Let's all be honest. I mean, Cleveland was coming off a series win against Baltimore and had basically controlled that series. It wasn't like they needed a miracle comeback in Game 1. They had controlled one of the best teams in the American League. And if the Royals lose 1-0, I think it's full panic meltdown mode for a lot of people. Maybe not everybody out there, but for a lot of people to lose that series against Miami. And that inning, you saw a weight get lifted off their shoulders. They were no longer going up to the plate kind of puckered, let's be honest. I mean, every guy going up looked tense. Against Cleveland, nobody really did. I think even when they were shut out through the first 5 innings, I think it was against Cleveland.
6th inning when they put the back-to-back triples.
It was the 6th inning, Isbell and Garcia went back-to-back, but they had a couple moments in the first few innings where there were good at-bats. There were hard-hit balls to the outfield, and that's something we hadn't seen in probably 2 weeks. And you're exactly right. That game ends up 1-0. I don't think they win on Thursday. I maybe think because Tristan McKenzie was so bad against the Royals here, could win on Friday. They don't win Saturday, of course, because they already lost that game. And I don't think they win Sunday. It'd just be one of those momentum things. And now we're talking about something completely different. But, yeah, against a bad Marlins team, they would have saw Tanner Scott in the ninth, probably wouldn't have scored, been shut out for the fifth time in like the last 2 weeks. It would have been probably the low point of the season, and I'm not sure they would have been able to recover against a team like Cleveland.
Yeah, and we talked about it on Thursday, just the meaning of how they got it done. The 3 home runs, fun, exciting. That's not typically how the Royals are going to win every single game, although against Cleveland they did hit a lot. Salvi was back. Vinny was back. Kyle Isabel golfed one out of there.
Well, McKenzie doesn't want to see the Royals again.
Well,
He's given up, what?
He used to like seeing them.
Yeah, he was giving up 5 or 6 home runs in the 2 starts he's had against the Royals.
Who said that to start the season?
He did. The first game they played McKenzie, you're like, the Royals are going to hit some home runs against this guy. I thought about you when, Renfroe went deep and whoever else went deep against McKenzie in that game. But, yeah, he was bad. I mean, how many times did he try to throw a slider that hit the netting behind home plate? I mean, at least it registered a slider on the pitch track. I don't know if it was because it went over the catcher's head.
Yeah.
But it registered slider. And it's like, if I'm the Royals, I'm like, this guy doesn't have a slider. He can't control the slider. So let's focus on the other things. And they did, and they hit him around. Go ahead, Star.
Well, what's nice is, again, I mentioned the Royals being streaky, right? There's ups and downs. When they're good, they're almost all good. When they're bad, they're almost all bad. Typically, Bobby Witt Jr. is the outlier in that scenario. But when they all hit around, or 7 guys got hit, and you're sitting there going, okay, that's the catalyst. Now they've seen it. Now they understand they can go back to back. It doesn't have to be, we all have to go for a home run to try and score. Trust the guy behind you. And that helps when Michael Massey's back. Now, he was not there. Was it last night or the game before when Salvi hit the bomb? We're sitting here going, okay, Michael Massey still wasn't behind him, but Salvi's now trusting the guy behind him more instead of trying to swing at every pitch out of the zone.
Yeah, Salvi had insurance yesterday. I don't know if that's the bomb you were talking about, but the insurance that he hit yesterday.
And what we're used to seeing, and again, Massey wasn't behind him, but again, he's now trusting the guy behind him because it was MJ, it was Nelson Velasquez, it was literally anyone who was not going to get a hit. So he felt like he had to do too much. Too much was on his plate. Hunter Renfroe really starting to turn it around. We've mentioned it. I think in the month of June he's hitting over 300, slugging 582. I think was the number. I mean Renfroe is really helping to elongate this lineup as well. Kyle Isabel continues to do Kyle Isabel things, which is great defense and timely hitting. As much as I didn't believe in him with the bat going into this season, even though the total numbers aren't great, 236, 281, 389. But when you couple that with great defense and when he has those hits, when he seemingly is starting or ending an inning, they're big hits, they're important hits. There's something to the fact that he seemingly is a clutch hitter.
Has he and Garcia, have they done, this would be where, somebody much smarter than I and studying swings and, launch angle, has Kyle Isbell and Michael Garcia, have they been 2 ships passing in the night on their swing angle? Because Kyle Isbell always used to swing under the pitches. Always used to be seeming like he was a golf swinger. Just underneath the pitches, popping it up. And Garcia, it was just flat through the zone. It was just so flat through the zone, line drives, and it was such a beautiful swing. And I know it's like, well, he's got to hit more fly balls. He had the at-bat the other day, and I don't remember who it was against, but it was like 10 pitches, and he kept fouling off, but he kept fouling it off, popping it up. Then he finally hit it fair and popped it up. He never got on top of the baseball or barreled it up. He was under it the whole time. And it's like, I just feel like Garcia is getting under so many baseballs when it's like, oh, there's a fly ball into deep right field and just got under it. I know that's been sort of the theme for the season. At the beginning of the year was like, hell yeah, the launch angle, the guy's hitting home runs. If Garcia is going to start hitting home runs, how good can he be? But now it seems like Isbell's hitting line drives and Garcia's getting under the pitches. And I don't know if they went the opposite direction and Isbell's flattened out his swing while Garcia was going for the launch angle, and now he's not hitting as many line drives. Some of the advanced analytics or underlying, metrics may show that, but it's just anecdotal of what it feels like right now when I'm watching those 2 guys at bat.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Isbell has had a transformation, and seemingly in the month of June, and we talked about it all the time on the show. What if Kyle Isbell could be a league average hitter? And he's been above league average in the month of June, and when you have that defense, you are going to be quite a valuable player. And with Michael Garcia, we kind of got the above average player with the great defense, and we never had to worry about it until the last month or so. Probably in the month of June is when this tailspin really began. And I am curious that once they get that reset at the All-Star break, if they tinker with it a little bit. We saw them tinker with MJ Melendez's stance. I think they tinkered a little bit with Kyle Isbell as well to help that swing path. That, you're a guy who's going to hit a lot of singles. And if you can use that to your advantage of going the other way. I think Kyle Isbell going the other way was the start of this all, of being able to work the count. He gets his pitch, and instead of popping it up or swinging under it or rolling over to second, he was hitting line drives the other way or line drives up the middle. And Garcia, we saw in his triple on Thursday, that was the swing we're accustomed to, where it's the outside corner of the plate. He's not barely swinging at it or rolling it over to short or softly tapping it to first. It was a line drive swing that was roped into the right field corner. And from that point, we saw some better ABs, not great ones, but hopefully something where you can see and go, it would be great if I was a guy that could launch the ball into the air, hit it out like we saw at the beginning part of April. But the reality is he's not that guy right now. And to be the leadoff hitter the Royals want him to be, it needs to be that return to form of what we saw last year, where if you don't slug that high, you're a leadoff guy, and you'd love to see the extra base hits. At this point, I will just take a Maikel Garcia who hits 265, 270, lots of singles, no walks, but it's better than this version of maybe still trying to tap into that power a little bit.
Well, what's great is with him, he has 21 stolen bases. He's been caught stealing one time. You're fast. Get on base. You're not a home run hitter. You hit 4 last year. I know the start of the season, and was the Venezuelan League?
Yeah, Venezuelan Winter League.
And he was hitting the ball and a lot of home runs, and that's fine. But the ball is obviously carrying more down there. Yeah. Don't worry about it. Be the 272, 323 on base guy. That plays. 229, 282 on base. That's not playing.
I just loved how long his swing stayed in the zone, Garcia's. I mean, it just felt like it got on plane at the catcher's mask and didn't come off plane until it was almost to the grass. That's just what it felt. Obviously, it can't do that, but it just felt like it was just straight and then right through the zone, line drives. But doesn't feel that way. But as your point about Kyle Isbell, Jack, in the month of June, well, I'll just give you, I'll compare these numbers. So 312 to 309, 363 to 340, 534 to 546, 897 to 885. The first number is what Bobby Witt's done this year. The second number is Isbell in June. He's been Bobby Witt in June, which is dumb to think about in terms of batting average, 309 to 312. Slugging percentage, he's slugging 12 points higher than Bobby Witt. In June, Isbell slugging 12 points higher than Bobby Witt on the season. And Bobby Witt has 12 points higher in OPS. In on-base percentage, slugging combined, 12 points higher for Bobby Witt. Isbell's gone from a guy that I'm just like, okay, well, he's up. Let's see if he can do anything. To now, I'm okay. Like I don't dread it. There's a part of me that's like, okay, cool, Isbell's up. All right, let's see what he can do. There's such a difference that he's made, and maybe this is him turning a corner just in his career. Maybe the tinkering, him finally getting a little confidence, maybe a little belief in his ability, as opposed to going up there and seeing the numbers every single time he goes up there. Now it's like, I don't care what those numbers are because I know what I'm doing in June, how comfortable I am. Because if he can do that, boy, it's a massive second leadoff hitter for the Royals. Or if he continues this, maybe he just becomes the leadoff hitter for the Royals. Maybe they move him to number 1. Since we're looking for a leadoff hitter and talking about, do you move Bobby Witt up? Who do you put at the 1 spot? Isbell, it's nice to, if he's doing this, to maybe have a second leadoff hitter at number 9. Maybe he is just simply the leadoff hitter in front of Bobby Witt because it's 20 games in June and he's been doing this. So it's incredibly, nonetheless, it's encouraging. At the very minimum, it's encouraging from what Kyle Isbell has done. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. I want to hear from Seth Lugo and how brilliant he has been and how brilliant he was yesterday. Matt Quattrero, Bobby Witt. We'll hear from them as the Royals take 3 of 4. They've got a day off before starting a 3-game set against the Rays to wrap up this 10-game homestand in which they are already 5-2. They've already guaranteed themselves a 500 homestand, but keep the momentum going, keep the train rolling against the Rays coming up tomorrow night. Brady Singer taking on Zach Littell for the Rays. We'll take a timeout, come back, more Zone right after this. I will continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll talk with JT Batson, CEO and Secretary General of the U.S. Soccer Federation. That comes up at 11 o'clock. Let's hear from Seth Lugo post-game yesterday, and certainly talking about his outing, but starts off with the answer to a question about what kind of boost it is for this team taking 3 of 4 from the first-place Guardians.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially with the crowd, it was a big crowd and they were loud. They were into it all game, all series, really. But after that tough one yesterday, we really wanted the series win, and we were able to get it today.
How big do you think it is for that club, for this club to take 3 out of 4?
It's great. We know where we're at. We know where they're at in the standings, and to go out and perform and just do what we do and control what we control. And that's what we did today, and that's how we got the W.
Taking 3 out of 4 from this club, do you feel like that proves that this team can compete for that division title right of the season?
Absolutely. We know we're a good team, but we know they're a good team also. And I think especially for some of the young guys in this clubhouse to show that we're as good as the best, I think that's going to take us a long way in the future.
You look around the clubhouse earlier today, you had some of the coaches wearing the shirts to the All-Star on them. So what does it mean to be in consideration for that kind of praise and honor, and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. It's for me, it's about putting in the work and trusting myself and trusting my process, and it's a little satisfaction that I'm doing some good things.
If it did come down to it and your name came up as an All-Star starter, what would it mean to you?
That would be awesome. It's something I didn't ever dreamed of, so it would just be a really cool surprise.
He should be the All-Star starter. Mm-hmm. Will he be? I don't know, but he should be. He's got 2 starts left, and right now he is on track to start Saturday against Boston, July 13th of the All-Star week. So that would give him 2 days off before that Tuesday game. The rule used to be Sunday. If you start Sunday, you weren't allowed to start the All-Star game. They have changed it now to it's up to the discretion of the pitcher and the organization. So the team, the pitcher, the all-star, managerial staff, the coaching staff can come together and talk about it. They also are allowed to put pitch limits on that of all right, he can start but can only go 1 inning. If Lugo starts that Saturday, July 13th against Boston, depending on what he does, I think the Royals would probably say, yeah, he can go an inning.
They mostly go an inning anyways, don't they?
Mostly
Typically,
do.
it's about an inning or
Sometimes
2.
it's 2, depending on what they do, to give the tip of the cap to the all-star starter.
Yeah.
All right, you started, we'll give you 2 innings because you're the starter. After that, it's 1-1, 1-1-1.
Yeah.
You simply made it. But a tip of the cap to you being the starter. But if somebody goes on Saturday, I wonder if the Royals then go, yeah, look, it's an awesome honor, and he's earned it. So he's going to have the honor even if he only pitches 1 inning. But he's our guy that we need the rest of the way, which, again, would be a little concerning if he pitches Saturday because warming up for the All-Star game on Tuesday, I think he's going to go through his regular warm-up routine. And even if he's out there for 1 inning, it's Lugo on the mound to start the All-Star game. I don't think he's going to go, let me give it 85%, before we get out there.
You get one batter. It's all you get, Seth.
One chance, one opportunity. Yeah. I think the Royals would be okay with it. I think they would allow him to go out there, and I think Seth Lugo would absolutely want to do it. And a veteran like him, I would trust that he would know what he is doing. They may push his start back coming out of the All-Star break. He may not start game number 1 or 2. He may start the Sunday against the White Sox as opposed to the Friday or Saturday against the White Sox, which is perfectly fine. Okay, whatever. He throws on Saturday. He gets an inning on Tuesday, and then he doesn't throw again until Sunday. Okay, that's I'm good with that. He should be the starter. We'll see if he is because he's got 2 outings, 2 starts to go before ultimately we'll find out if he's going to be named the starter or not.
Does anyone know, and I could be wrong, I know obviously in a regular season game or playoffs, you got to go 5 innings, right, to get the win. 4 2/3, not enough. If a guy comes in and gets that final out of the 5th.
Yeah, same thing with the All-Star game.
It's the same thing. Okay, Seth Lugo, you pitched the 5th inning, or I guess the 4th inning, right?
But he's not the starter then.
Well, I get it, but you know what? I'm fine.
Well, you can
Seth
win
Lugo
if you
get the dub.
Well, if you come in the 2nd inning, you can get the win. You just can't start the game and not pitch 5 innings.
He's not going to pitch 4 innings, though. Not my point. He's not going to pitch 4 in the All-Star
Yeah, but you don't
game.
have to be a pitcher in the 4th. You're just a second pitcher. if a guy comes in and records 1 out and then the guy relieves him.
You know what?
and
Fine.
Lugo-
Closer.
he can-
Seth Lugo.
he can-
I want him to get a stat is what I'm
It's
saying.
a dumb stat. It's an absolutely dumb stat.
That's my point.
It's a dumb
silly.
stat. You can pitch 4 innings and be brilliant. 4 2/3 innings and be brilliant. And get taken out of the game. And a guy comes in, pitches a third of an inning, but gives up 2 runs. And the game's tied 2-2. And then the team goes and gets a run. And that dude gets the win. That's absurd. The official scores do have the right to assign a win.
We saw it once this year, by the way.
We've seen it one time. We've seen it like once in the last 3 years. They can assign a win to somebody that's like, all right, the starter went 7 innings. The bullpen came in and gave up 4 runs. And that guy gets the win? As opposed to the starter went 7 innings and gave up no runs? No, I'm going to give it to that starter. We've seen that. Hell, Lugo might have 13 wins if they assigned wins to who actually earned the win that day, as opposed to who blew it and gave it up. So, yeah, I don't think they would care about getting a win or not. It'd be about out there on the mound as the all-star game starter for a guy who couldn't get an organization to believe in him to make him a starter when his whole career he's tried to tell everybody, I'm going to be a starter. I want to be a starter. I can start in Major League Baseball. And the Padres were the first ones last year as a, 33-year-old man, 32, however old he is now, that said, all right, we'll give you a chance to start every 5 days.
The best part about this, too, because I've pushed it off. I've pushed off this idea of him being the American League starter for a while now, just because I thought it's going to be Tarek Skubal. Tarek Skubal's the name that jumps out. He's got the more electric stuff. I thought Corbin Burns for like the last couple weeks would be the best pick. Honestly, Corbin Burns' numbers are not far off Seth Lugo, but Seth Lugo still has him beat in a number of categories. So what it's going to come down to, and maybe it comes down to these final 2 starts here. If he goes 6 innings, a 1-run ball next time out against, would that be Colorado?
It's at Colorado and at Boston.
At Colorado and at Boston.
Yep.
Let's say he goes 6 innings, a 1-run ball there, and let's say he goes 6 innings, a 1-run ball against Boston. That puts his ERA in the low 2.00s, and he would then still be leading the league in innings. He would still be leading the league in quality starts. He would still be leading the league in wins. At what point, and WAR, might I add here, so if you want to add in the stat that's not just the baseline, the easy stats to look at in baseball, if you look past that, there still is a number of reasons to give him that nod. I'm still skeptical about what baseball will do there. Like, it's not going to surprise me.
Yeah.
Even if he does that, they go with Corbin Burns or Skubal. But nonetheless, I remember we had the conversation about the Royals' best offseason signing in history, and I think we came down to David Cone, and then we started flirting with the idea of Seth Lugo. But it was still very early on into the season. Now you start wondering about the possibilities. He's on pace to win near 20 games. Who knows if his ERA stays in the low 2s? Who knows if he goes over 200 innings? But let's say he achieves all of that. He's going to be on pace to have over 25 quality starts, and he's the number 2 in this rotation. And if he's the American League starter in the All-Star game, I know we give a lot of credit for J.J. Piccolo going after Cole Reagans in a trade. I think there were a lot of teams that were scared away about that 3rd year in the Seth Lugo deal. And I think some people said that's way too much for a guy that's been a starter for 1 year. And to get return like this, I don't care if he is the starter or not. This has been, not just with the Royals, one of the best signings we've seen in baseball across the board this year.
No doubt. Skubal responded against the Phillies by going 7 innings and not giving up a run. But before that, he had a couple of rough outings, 5 innings, 4 earned runs, 4 innings, 4 earned runs against Houston and Atlanta. But again, then he bounces back with 7 innings, no earned runs against Philly with 7 Ks. And he's got the strikeouts. I mean, he is a strikeout machine. So, I mean, he's got 112 strikeouts and 97 innings. He does have a 2.32 ERA, so he's got the electric stuff, does Skubal. I feel like with Lugo's story and the Royals playing the way that they are, while the Tigers are sliding back further and further, it would be cool to see Lugo get the nod to be the starter. He leads the league in ERA, in innings pitched and wins. Those last 2, whatever. You can lead the league in innings pitched and not be all that good. But you do have to be somewhat good to stay out there pitching. He leads all of Major League Baseball in pitcher WAR at 4.2. He leads in adjusted pitching runs. He leads in base out runs saved. He leads in base out wins saved. And not only and he also leads in win probability added for a pitcher. But not only those last three. This is how dominant he's been, which includes Skubal and Burns and all of that. This is how dominant he's been. Base out runs saved. He's number 1. The difference between him and number 2 is the difference between number 2 and number 17 in the league. In base out wins saved, the difference between him and number 2 is the difference between number 2 and number 18. And win probability added, the difference between Lugo and number 2 in Major League Baseball is the difference between number 2 and number 19. That's how high on those advanced metrics of what he's doing in recording outs and keeping men off base, win probability, WAR. He doesn't have the strikeouts. He doesn't have that electric stuff, but he's like a surgeon on the mound. It's so fun to watch him because he throws the pitch and he's immediately already going to the pitch comm. He knows exactly what he's pitching next. Like it's fun to watch. Skubal has an entertainment factor because he's got electric stuff. But what Lugo is doing, like he's not only been good, like he's been dominant in some of the underlying metrics. Like the difference between number 1 and number 2 is the difference between number 2 and number 17. That's how wide the gap is for Lugo in base out run saved, base out win saved, and win probability added.
And you know me, I love the numbers.
You do
and
love the numbers.
I'm very nerdy in
You are a nerd.
baseball regards.
Even more.
But there are 2 numbers that I think matter more than any others. We can talk about all the other ones, but throughout baseball history, there should be 2 numbers that matter the most. ERA and innings pitched. For a starter.
Yeah.
He's the best ERA and the most innings pitched.
Which is how he
Isn't that the point of baseball?
Yeah, which is why he's got the highest win probability added.
Yeah, like isn't that the point of baseball? The point of baseball is you want to give up the least amount of runs possible and you want to go as long as possible. That's the whole point. That's the point of a starter since the baseball was invented. Who cares if you get more strikeouts? It's fun. It's cool. It matters more for bullpen arms. It definitely does. But if you're a starter, you're going 7 innings almost every single game, giving up 1 run. Sometimes I'm like taking crazy pills.
You are.
Like
A lot of times.
you'll see people on Twitter getting into arguments. And it all started with Yasmani Grandal and Salvador Perez like 5 years ago when it was the White Sox fans tried to say they'd have Grandal than Sally because he walked. I'm like, his on base percentage is still lower. What are we doing here? Yeah. Like we're not talking about hypothetical runs scored. We're talking about real runs scored. What Seth Lugo has done is not giving up hypothetical or real runs scored. Like Seth Lugo should be the all-star starter. Skubal's amazing. Corbin Burns, amazing.
I think there's 2. The next 2 starts are crucial. Skubal's got 2 starts. Lugo's got 2 starts. If Skubal goes out there and throws, 7 innings, no earned runs, 10 Ks back-to-back games, and Lugo has a rough outing or 2, then yeah, that can sway it one way or another. We've seen Skubal and Lugo each have one time where they had back-to-back starts where they gave up 4 or 5 runs. Skubal's done it once, Lugo's done it once. Skubal's done it more recently, but again, there's still 2 more starts to go for both of these pitchers before the All-Star game starter is announced. So it's let's hear Matt Quattrero real quick on Seth Lugo. Then we'll take a break and come back and get into what the significance of this 4-game series against the Guardians was. But here's Matt Quattrero talking about Seth Lugo.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much pain he was in, but it certainly looked like it was bothering him. But it didn't phase his pitching. I mean, luckily it was in the left hand and not the right. It's really hard to quantify or come up with new ways to talk about how good he's been, but we know how challenging that lineup is, and with all those lefties in there, for him to be able to get in on some of them, stay away from some of them, go up, go down, whatever he had to do, he was executing.
I know the All-Star game is coming up, and fans are going to be voting for different players. But do you believe that Seth Lugo has put himself in position to potentially start the All-Star game?
Yeah, I certainly don't know how he couldn't be in consideration for it. I mean, last I knew, he was leading the league in wins, and he's up there in ERA. He's done everything he could possibly do. So I'm sure there's other deserving people that I don't have in my mind right now, but there's no way that he couldn't be in the conversation.
Yeah, he's definitely in the conversation. It's a matter of if he is given the nod to start the All-Star game. And if that's the case, he will probably be the only starter for the Royals in the All-Star game. Witt and Salvi trailing Gunnar and Adley Rutschman. The Orioles are out in force. Orioles fans, and you know what? We went through it. Vote Omar, annoyed the hell out of the rest of Major League Baseball with that. We've been through it on this side, and the Orioles have rallied their fan base. And not only that, they've rallied their fan base, and then just in general across the league, you're going to have people voting for Gunnar over Bobby Witt. You can only vote one time now. The rest of the way, I mean, heck. Lebo talked about this morning. Ryan O'Hearn was fourth at first base in voting. Ryan O'Hearn was fourth.
In fairness, Adley's also been.
Adley's been amazing. Yeah,
incredible this
no.
year.
They both are deserving. Like Adley is deserving to start. Gunnar is definitely deserving to start. Both those guys are deserving to start. My point is that Salvi and Bobby, what it looks like right now, are not going to win the fan voting. So the starter they would have in the All-Star game would be Seth Lugo if they were to get one. We'll tell you, unless something changes over the next few days. I mean, I'll have 3 votes or 4. They'll have my 4 votes. Wednesday at whatever is when it ends. So you can vote. You can give him 4 votes. He'll have 4 votes from me yesterday, today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. But if he wins by 1, you're welcome, everybody. But I don't know that that's going to be the case. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. All right, wrapping up this hour, we will talk with JT Batson coming up in the next segment, CEO of U.S. Soccer Federation. U.S. men's national team taking on Uruguay tonight out at Arrowhead Stadium. These last 4 games, and maybe the last 5, we talked about the significance of the 8th inning on Wednesday against the Marlins and getting that triple from Bobby and then the next 6 guys reaching base before the 3rd out and scoring 5 runs, winning that game. and then, taking 3 or 4 from the Guardians. This would be a question maybe for the general public of Royals fans and that have been waiting for the other shoe to drop, that have been waiting for some negativity to see and then go, told you, this is the team they really are. That team, those 15 games over 500, that's not the team. This is the team they really are. Does it change, perspective? Is perspective sort of changed with these last 5 games of what this team can be, as opposed to holding on for dear life and seeing it unravel and come apart at the seams, to winning 3 of 4 against the Guardians? That, okay, there was a tough stretch of baseball for the Royals, but they are a legit team that can make the postseason and be a wild card team.
I think you can make that case, and I feel like for some people that had doubted this team, that thought they weren't good enough and they wanted to see them beat a really good team or take a series, to do that over 4 games is one of the hardest things to do in baseball. Sweeping a 4-game series, probably the most difficult.
Yeah.
Taking 3 of 4 is really damn hard to do, especially against a team like Cleveland. If you aren't bought in now, I'm not sure what you're waiting for at this point.
I've said it from the start. I'll say it now. This is just a very streaky team. Their starting and pitching is going to keep them in a lot of games, so hopefully don't see another one of those just brutal stretches. But overall, they can beat and compete with the best teams, and they can also play down a competition just based on how their offense is set up.
Would they end up 14 and 15 in June?
I think around that, yeah. Slightly below 500.
I mean, think about that. That was the, oh my God, they suck. This Royals team this year, the oh my God, they suck, was barely under 500 for a month. Playing 14 and 15 ball would have been, oh my God, they've turned the corner.
Spoiled. Spoiled.
It's the Patrick Mahomes effect.
Yep.
It's the Bobby Witt effect. He's bringing triples back. JT already brought sexy back. Now he's bringing triples back.
food to Midwestern families since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, hanging out on Monday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. We had up until 2 o'clock. Coming up tonight out at Arrowhead Stadium, Copa America, it is the U.S. taking on Uruguay, and a huge match for the U.S. men's national team. Joining us now here in studio, JT Batson, CEO, U.S. Soccer Federation, joining us here. JT, what's up? How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing just fine. Now, you're the CEO and Secretary General, so it sounds very diplomatic. What's the Secretary General doing with the U.S. Soccer Federation? I have an idea of what the CEO is doing, but Secretary General as well. That's great.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure that part out as well. So when I figure it out, I'll let you know.
Very good. I want to be the first to know.
All right,
when you do
perfect.
figure it out, I want to be the
Perfect.
first to know. I apologize for the weather right now.
It is wet. It
Yeah.
is very wet. I was not counting on that this morning, but it's supposed to dry up later today, and we're ready, rain or shine.
Yeah, so it's hopefully in a couple of hours it'll be done, and then it's supposed to be 85 and sunny the rest of the day, and Arrowhead has some decent drainage. It could be worse. The last football game played at Arrowhead was minus 27 wind chill with the Chiefs and Dolphins.
We'll
so
take the rain.
It could be a little worse weather.
Could have had a tea time this morning. See, could be worse.
Yeah,
JT, could be worse.
That's what Sterling's thinking of golf.
Well, I'm from Augusta, so I get it.
See, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you guys want to talk the rest of the time?
No,
Is there
it's
going to be
all right.
soccer talk about
It's
here?
all good.
Just,
We'll stick to soccer. We'll stick to soccer.
Just some golf talk. JT Batson, CEO. The match coming up tonight, it's huge, and in Kansas City, the first Copa America match that we've been able to host out at Arrowhead Stadium, getting ready for the World Cup in a couple of years. But the feeling you have sort of here in the area, I know you haven't been here for a week, but here in the area getting ready for this monster matchup tonight.
Sure. Well, last night at restaurant, everyone at the bar was in from out of town here for the game, and I was just sitting there. They didn't know who I was, and so they were all talking about the game. People from Dallas, people from Alabama, Mississippi, Minnesota, everyone in town, everyone wearing their soccer jerseys. Everywhere you go this morning, I was just talking to someone who's at Legoland. Every kid in there is wearing U.S. soccer jerseys, and
That's
so
amazing.
Feels like we're here for a party, and the guys are excited about the game tonight.
I want to talk about that. I want to talk about other things with that, what you talk about specifically there.
Sure.
But so the Soccer Forward Foundation that you guys have just introduced recently, let's start with that. What is this, and what's the impact of the recent announcement in the last week or so of the Soccer Forward Foundation?
Sure. So as a part of the World Cup coming to our shores in 2026, we want to launch a new foundation, and we just announced that last week, focused on making soccer the most played and accessible sport in our country. And so obviously there are lots of kids play soccer today. Millions are playing every year. We want to make it to where every American who wants to play has the ability to do that. And so we launched Soccer Forward last week as a way to make that true, and we're excited about working with community partners all across the country to bring that to life.
So what is it? Is it just a marketing aspect of it to grow the game in that way? Is it setting up different leagues, or what all is encompassing?
Yeah,
there?
3 pillars. One is a common advocacy platform to engage with school districts with Parks and Recs programs around how to make fields more accessible, how to make programming more accessible in the local market. The second pillar is around infrastructure and best practices. So if you've got a great program here in Kansas City, maybe Atlanta could learn from that. Maybe Sacramento could learn from that. And the third piece is all around inspiration. So how do we use these big moments? How do we use these big events to inspire the next generation of kids to go play?
How do you measure something like that, an interest level in an initiative? How do you measure that this is being successful?
Ultimately, we'll measure it in terms of participation. And so you can do that in terms of registration information, but also broad-based surveys as to how often are people playing the game. But ultimately, one of our goals is to make it to every American can walk, ride their bike, or take public transit to a safe place to play soccer. And then also for soccer to be in every school, elementary, middle, and high school all across the country. And so we think those are some tangible things that we can do in the short term that will ultimately lead to tens of millions of more Americans get to do something that we all love.
And is there like I know it's just simply to spread the game, to give people and youth an opportunity that maybe they didn't have, accessibility to the game. But is there a tangible years down the road to see, like, is this an impact that will then affect whether that be the MLS or the USMNT?
Of course. So we know there are all sorts of positive life benefits that come with participating in soccer. you're healthier, your mental health is better, you're a better teammate, all sorts of great life benefits. But we also know that we're a country of incredible athleticism. We have all sorts of amazing athletes, boys and girls, that the more people we have playing soccer, the more inclusive our sport is to where everyone's playing soccer. Ultimately, that's going to mean better players for the current as well as for sporting and of course, our men's and women's national teams. And so there's no doubt that getting millions more kids playing is going to produce more wins down the line.
Have we seen an impact there of like the numbers when a nation hosts a World Cup, maybe with the United States specifically, but that nationwide impact in the World Cup of interest and participation, does that have an immediate like jump in percentage when it's the World Cup is here, now all of a sudden you're seeing soccer participation and these leagues are now filled with kids that want to play soccer?
The best data point, of course, we have is 94 World Cup. So coming out of the 94 World Cup, there was a 30% increase in fandom for soccer in this country. So we're now over 100 million Americans who are fans of the U.S. men's and women's national team. And so, if you have another 30%, you're close to half the country. As we all know, half the country doesn't agree on anything right now. So the fact that many people can come together around soccer is a great thing and something we want to celebrate.
Well, half the country thinks the other half is wrong.
Of course.
Half the country does agree that the other half is wrong.
Exactly.
But go ahead.
Is it mostly focused on starting kids younger, getting into it, or is it trying to also, for example, playing basketball and football, trying to get some of those kids who maybe are more focused on other sports to also play soccer?
So the main purpose is get folks early and often and get them playing in sort of fun environments, make it really affordable, make it really close so you don't have to travel all over the place, get it in your actual communities where you are. We'll separately be announcing a set of initiatives that are focused on, okay, you're playing, you're liking it, what's the pathway to go be great, and what does that look like to where it's a positive environment for everyone. So that's coming soon and something that we also think will pay big dividends over time.
Well, locally, I know the World Cup's coming in a couple of years, which is awesome. I cannot wait. I've got friends that are already planning their trips and coming into town to stay at my house and then where they're going to be. And all right, I'm going to spend a week here. I'm going to go to this match there, depending on, who's going to be based, here in Kansas City, which is a huge deal because I hope there's a couple of prime and premier teams and countries that will base camp here in Kansas City by being centrally located and by hosting some games. That certainly that's a possibility that Kansas City will have that. But we saw an impact with Messi.
Absolutely.
Messi come to the MLS, and when he played at Arrowhead, for weeks we were watching the injury report on Lionel Messi and his hamstring to see if he'd be playing that night because it was massive whether or not he was going to play.
Sure.
And he did play. And for days leading up to it, and then all day, and everybody. It's like we went over to a friend's house for a little cookout, and there were like 7 or 8 people that were planning on being there, but they weren't there because they got tickets to go see Messi. I'm like, oh, they're at the game. Well, they got tickets today. They're going to the game. It was like the conversation there was about the game that the people at the cookout were not at because of Messi only,
Totally.
and that impact there.
Well, I remember as a kid growing up watching the Wiz or Wizards, depending on the era, back at Arrowhead. So I've been an MLS fan my whole life, and so seeing where the league is now is just incredible. And as we've traveled around the world, the global knowledge of Major League Soccer, even predating Messi, is really quite remarkable. And now, of course, with Messi, with some of these other great players who are coming here, the interest around the world is really through the roof, which is really cool to see. Given 94 when the World Cup came here, we didn't have a first division men's league, so think how far we've come in that amount of time, and pretty darn cool. Visiting
with JT Batson, CEO of the U.S. Soccer Federation. So we mentioned the match coming up tonight. It's a tough spot to be in. It's great for Kansas City because of the interest that will be there.
Oh yeah.
But it's a massive match tonight for Copa to get out of group stage. How important do you think tonight's result is for the men's national team, and whether that be perception or overall sort of feeling of momentum as they go into try to win another trophy, but also the World Cup right around the corner?
So one of the downsides of being a host of a World Cup is you don't have the World Cup qualification process to create those competitive environments for the team as in a build-up to 26. And so this summer is an incredible opportunity for the team to have those experiences. And our coaching staff, our sporting leadership ahead of this said, hey, the goal of this tournament, of course, is you always want to win, but it's to create as many high-pressure environments for the team to experience and build as we go into 26. So tonight's a heck of an opportunity for that. And so I know that the guys are fired up, the staff is focused, and everyone's looking forward to tonight, and we know we got to win. So that's what everyone's focused on.
Do you guys expect to be a regular participant in Copa moving forward now?
I think this is an incredible platform. There are lots of conversations with CONCACAF and CONMEBOL around, what are future competitions that we're doing together. We're huge fans of that, and so we're obviously focused on having a nice run in this one. It's a great opportunity for our team to play against some of the best players and teams in the world.
Yeah, it's nice to get the invite, not only to get the invite, but to host. And, the Euros are going on, and we're also watching the tournament that our team's playing in, and it's nice to have that, to be able to watch both of those and just to be a part of it. Like, I obviously biased, but, I think the United States should be a part of Copa every time they have it, not have an 8-year absence of not playing in it.
Absolutely. My father is joking that he's not sure that my brother has done any work over the last couple of weeks, because he just wakes up and turns on soccer and stays up and I saw him. He's still alive. He's made it off his couch.
Great.
So that's
good.
progress.
There you go.
Yeah, I can report
good.
that back. But no, it's an incredible opportunity for a fan to be able to watch it overseas and then go to games here and get home and watch it again on television. It's pretty cool.
Is the attendance where you want it to be in some of these matches with the U.S. hosting, like in Atlanta versus Panama, and the expectation of what tonight may look like in terms of ticket sales?
So CONMEBOL is managing the tournament fully, and so we're a very happy participant. I will say the fan support in Dallas was great. The fan support in Atlanta was incredible. The team was saying afterwards that probably was the best American fan support for a match here since the '94 World Cup. And so from the men's side. On the women's side, obviously we've had some incredible moments, the Olympics and the '99 World Cup and so on. But playing at a massive stadium, having everywhere in Atlanta was just covered in red, white, and blue, and it was loud in there. So we're hoping for a similar feel tonight, and based on walking around the streets here, I'm thinking we're going to get it.
I can't imagine what Atlanta was like on Thursday night to try to navigate with a city that already has some issues in trying to navigate, and you've got a debate going on, and you've got U.S. Panama the same
right down
night.
the street, not just like in the same city, like literally down the street.
I kind of feel like maybe you had to leave at like 11 in the morning to get there by kickoff for the U.S. Panama match.
Fortunately, the city and the local news have doing a great job of prepping everyone to take MARTA, get there early, do all those things, and so and as you sort of saw people funneling out of the MARTA stations, people did that, and so it was positive, or they just went to the bars early. So either way,
take
it's good.
the day off on Thursday. Come on,
exactly. Either way is good in my book.
We do not have a debate planned for tonight in Kansas City.
Although I hear there's some golf they could go play.
Not right now.
No, not now. Not now.
That's the only reason they're not out there.
Well,
so.
Jason, I could be at a bar right now.
You could be.
I could be there.
We sit here and talk sports for 4 hours. It's kind of like being at a bar without the beer, and you don't always have the non-beer aspect during the show.
True.
Not always.
True.
JT Batson is our guest, CEO of the U.S. Soccer Federation. So I know this has been a conversation the last few days, and there are people in charge that make some of these decisions, but does a decision have to be made if the result doesn't turn out the way that we certainly want to tonight, and they get knocked out in group?
I mean, obviously, everyone's focused on the result tonight, and we're chatting about it this morning over breakfast. 2 wins and you're in the semifinal, which is sort of wild to think about, where we are right now. And so, think treating this as sort of a knockout game, and hey, let's keep the show rolling is certainly a great opportunity for the team. Regardless of how many more games we have, at the end of every major tournament, we do a review of the trajectory of the program, how we're doing, and Matt Crocker, who's our sporting director, will be leading that process with the team, and so we'll be doing that regardless. And we've got very high aspirations for this team as well as our programs more broadly, and so every effort will be put into making sure we're setting ourselves up for short, medium, and long-term success.
How important is stability in that position? Because from Arena to Bradley to Jurgen, and then since then it's kind of been a revolving door, whether it be Arena or interims or Berhalter or interims and Berhalter again. Sure. How important is it the stability there, and not sort of continuing what has been the trend since moving on from Jurgen?
So as someone who's a lifetime fan of our men's and women's national teams and felt like I was very close to the programs, obviously from the outside, one of the things that I've come to really appreciate is if you're a national team manager, how little time you actually get with the players on the field. And so the stability is really around our national team program more broadly. So starting with our youth national team programs, and how do you give our young players more experiences with our national team program, and there's continuity all the way through. So that way, when you're 19 and you're coming into your first camp, and 3 days later you could be on the field, how do you have already had all those experiences ahead of time? So I think the questions around stability and or sort of that consistency, really you should be looking at the program more broadly, not just the team. And so I think that's something that we're very focused on. That's part of the reason we're building a national training center is around creating those consistent environments to where whether regardless of who the people are involved, you know what to expect, and that's so important given the way that international soccer works, where you don't have months of preseasons, you're not training together every day, week in and week out, and so that consistency and that stability is super important. But I would broaden the sort of aperture in terms of how you're thinking about it.
Yeah, that's interesting because like we follow baseball so closely around here, and obviously sporting and the current are great, and with baseball it's so organizational. Yes. From the top to the bottom, from the major league team down to single A, and to the surprise Arizona where the Royals have their spring training, to the Dominican leagues that they have a presence there. That it's all from an organization standpoint. Difference being at the big leagues you play 162 with your manager, and what I'm hearing from you, it's sort of the it is organizational from top to bottom of building to get there, but when you get there at the U.S. men's national team, the manager isn't the manager of a Major League Baseball team that's going to be around in 162. It's keeping them organized, keeping them in the right spot, the motivation that's there, utilizing the tactics, all of that stuff is certainly important. But as far as a day-to-day role that we see, from Peter Vermees, et cetera, is very different. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was something that you sort of thought you knew it, but really sort of experiencing it firsthand, or when you start walking through the schedule. So think of Nations League in Dallas, players, most of them flying in from Europe. They could have games on Saturday or Sunday, so they're not getting there till Monday, Tuesday. You have a day or two of training and then a game. And so, imagine, Peter Vermees or imagine, Andy Reid only having players 1 or 2 days before you have to throw them out on the field. It's just very different. Doesn't make it good or bad. It's just different. And so for us, making sure that we have the consistency, starting young all the way through, and how do we make sure that we're able to give hundreds of more players those opportunities with our national team programs is very critical to our strategy going forward. And as a country, we have underinvested historically in our youth national team programs and sort of that pathway and how we integrate with the NWSL on the women's side and the USL now with their new Super League. And then on the men's side, obviously, I think one of the undertold stories of American soccer right now is the success of the MLS Academy programs. So MLS Next have really transformed what youth development looks like on the boys' side. And we're starting to see the benefit of that. Obviously, the Olympics, we got the Olympic roster coming out a week from today. That's almost certainly going to be players, even though it hasn't been picked yet, sometime tonight. Almost all those players will either be, folks who are active in MLS programs now or were active and are playing overseas. And so, how we integrate with the top youth programs to make sure that there's a positive overall experience is critical for our success on the field.
This is a complete aside, but will we get to the point in Olympics to where we can have just whatever age on the men's side to play some soccer there?
No, not a chance.
Okay.
And if anything, it's probably shift in that direction on the women's side over as well. And it's in a way that is, I guess surprising. I'm 41, to check for a second there. The Olympics, I feel like for our generation, is held in really high regard. 20-year-old, particularly men's soccer players, the sort of perception of the Olympics is not what it is for others. And so, its standing in the sort of global world order is certainly evolved. And so, and part of it is, we haven't been in it in a while on the men's side. And so I'm sure that's impacted it somewhat. But it certainly plays out in terms of what club teams will release players to go play in the Olympics, and particularly in Europe, none. So unless you're you're the host country, a European team in England and in Germany, in Italy, in the Netherlands, not so much. And so they view that as if you didn't make the Euros, if you didn't make Copa, it's now preseason. Get your rear here.
JT Batson's our guest, CEO of U.S. Soccer Federation. What have you seen from Emma Hayes? A couple friendlies, a couple more before heading over to France to play in the Olympics as one of, if not the favorites, to win it.
Certainly excited about our roster, excited about the team there. Emma and staff have jumped right in. Of course, we announced Emma joining in the fall, and so she was moonlighting for a while coaching Chelsea to the championship there. And so I think she's glad to just have one job now.
Right, yeah.
And Emma's a really incredible coach, great leader. Jumped right in. What's been really cool is she obviously had high, expectations for the team and the environment, and I think she's shared publicly that those expectations have been surpassed. And so, we're excited for this summer. The Olympics is a funky tournament in that it's very short. It's only 12 teams. It's a tiny roster, 18 versus typical tournaments in the mid-20s, and so. It's sort of a little bit more of a grab bag, but it's an incredible opportunity, and we're going to really rough it out, both the men and women playing the south of France, and so it's really awful that we have to go spend some time there.
That's too bad. I do feel bad for those that have to go, and was it the short? Did you guys draw straws, and it was like, oh no, I got to go to France?
It's really shocking that the number of texts and emails about who wanted to come hang out and go to the games radically changed when they learned we're going to be in Nice.
I see.
If you have room for two more,
come on over.
We'll join.
That's good. That's good.
If you're into that sort of thing, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, exactly.
It was Emma Hayes has weighed in on it as well, and it's been something that has been talked about on the women's side a couple of days. But how difficult was that decision with Alex Morgan to not have her a part of the Olympic team?
Sure. I mean, Alex is a legend.
Yeah.
Alex is an incredible player, incredible leader, incredible person, and is someone who's going to be an important part of our program, going forward. The challenge of 18-person roster, and how you think about also building sort of the next steps of the program. All those things had to factor in. Alex has been super supportive on and off the field, and I know she'll be a leader at U.S. Soccer for generations to come.
The next generation, is this sort of that passing of the baton, because there isn't the Carly Lloyd or Megan Rapinoe or Becky Sauerbrunn or Julie Ertz or Abby Wambach, and Alex Morgan's not on the team, and Tobin Heath. I mean, just these women that we got to know as household names, watching them win World Cups, that it feels like now let's get to know this next group of women.
Sure, and all those great names you mentioned, when they burst on the scene, there was no Julie Foudy, there's no Mia Hamm, there's no our chair, no Cindy Parlow.
This is the last World Cup for Abby Wambach.
Exactly.
What happens when she's done? Yeah, that's a good point.
And so what's awesome about our program is, look at how dynamic those young players are. And back to earlier conversation, both our men's and women's team, when you look at them now, they reflect what America looks like, which is really awesome. And as we think about our ability to consistently go compete for world championships on the men's and women's side, that being true is critical to that. So, but yeah, we got an awesome young crop, and it'll be fun to see him perform.
Yeah, visiting with JT Batson, CEO of the U.S. Soccer Federation. The U.S. men's national team in action tonight against Uruguay, and at least they didn't have to do all the construction for tonight's match. They a little bit different with the regulations on the pitch as opposed to in the World Cup, but yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how Arrowhead sort of adjusts to have the FIFA regulations as opposed to the Copa regulations.
Sure, and it'll be interesting to see what that means in terms of the tactics. So field width absolutely factors into how the teams play. And so now, fortunately, both teams know about it. They're playing on the same field, but that definitely influences what the approach is.
So, any chance, maybe throw a red card for Uruguay or something like that, just throw their way. Maybe just reverse fortune a little bit. See if they can play a man down. It would have been nice to have a smaller pitch on Thursday, where if you're playing a man down, it didn't matter. You're playing on a pickleball court.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Yeah.
That would have been nice. Yeah, that was definitely a curveball that wasn't in the cards that we all were thinking about.
No, it wasn't. But you know what? It's a massive game tonight. There's going to be tons of attention here in Kansas City, which is great. It's cool to see that out at Arrowhead Stadium, and sort of a warm up to a couple of years from now when there'll be some World Cup games and everything And hopefully there's some really awesome countries that choose Kansas City to be their base.
For sure, but also, I know folks, hey, we want a Brazil, we want an Argentina, we want a Germany. There are a lot of fun countries out there, and so you want countries that like to have fun. And so a lot of folks, forget that. Of course, you got the game days, but you also have the other days, and so you want some people staying in your city who are fun to party with, and so I think there are lots of criteria for what counts as a good country to be based in Kansas City, and so I would include are they a good time? Do they like good food? Do they like to get after it? And so you get to fully partake in the World Cup experience.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Now you're talking my language. Now,
Sterling's
the good
language.
time folks.
That's right. That is his language for
It's
sure.
just a big party.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, and I know that we're so much more familiar with Kansas City and the ins and outs and everything, but with Arrowhead, with their practice facilities during the summer, with Sporting and their practice facilities, with the Current and their how many countries do you think Kansas City, in theory, could host?
Well, I think what'll be interesting is how many teams are based in the same location for the entire time.
I see.
Versus move. And there's a lot of strategies and pros and cons of different approaches. And so you may have, a handful of teams who are here the entire time. You can end up with lots more teams who are here for chunks of time. And so yeah, I don't think anyone has sort of exactly of plotted out their path yet, because obviously they don't know where they're playing except us. And even for us, we're likely going to shift over time, but that's again not stuff that we've nailed down yet.
Any chance to shift to Kansas City at all at any point?
I can't remember our exact path east. Depending on, it all depends, of course, how you do in group stage.
Yeah. Maybe just a flyover land, train for a couple days, and then wherever you may go after that. Just even if it's something simple.
When I worked for the Stanford basketball program in 2005, our plane could not fly across the country for the NCAA tournament without refueling, and we did stop here to refuel. So, I know there's a great refueling operation here. So, for whatever reason, FIFA sends us a small plane.
But I have heard that it takes roughly 24 to 48 hours to refuel. So then you'd have to get out and train. You'd have to get out and train a couple days, and have some fans go out there and see it.
I also remember that they actually brought us some barbecue from one of the local places, and because I wasn't playing, I was able to eat it. The guys were like, "Hey, what is this? This isn't right."
That's how you train. You train with barbecue. That's the protein that really gets you going.
That's exactly right. JT Batson, CEO of the U.S. Soccer Federation. JT, thank you so much for stopping by. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of the day today. Hopefully it stops raining very soon. Should be beautiful after that, and let's hope for a fantastic result both in this match and the Panama-Bolivia one as well.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. There's JT Batson, CEO, U.S. Soccer Federation. It is the United States in action tonight, trying to make it out of the group against a really, really good Uruguay team that also has to at least get a result to move on as well. We'll take a timeout, come back, more Zone next. just hired, but hired her back in the fall, but she just started on June 1st, a month ago, with the 2 friendlies, 2 more friendlies before they face off against Zambia in the Olympics, and then they play Germany and Australia in the Olympics. So she'll have 4 friendlies under her belt when they go into the Olympics, and a few years before the World Cup in Brazil in 27. But when he talks about that, every single tournament that they go and they assess and they reassess to see where they're at. But one of the questions that I had, and it certainly makes it all the more, at least, likely or doable, because I had asked about stability in the position of head coach, because we have seen this team go from Bruce Arena for a couple of World Cups, then Bob Bradley, then Jurgen Klinsmann, and then Arena for a year, didn't qualify, he resigns, interim, Berhalter, don't extend his contract, interim, rehire Berhalter. 8 months later, you may not make it out of group stage in Copa, with Panama and Bolivia being the other 2. Now you may move on from him. Like, that stability that is there. And I thought his answer was really interesting of, well, the head coach doesn't necessarily spend a lot of time with the national team. It's more top to bottom, bigger view, macro of how the overall federation is developing, recruiting, training, choosing. And then when they get to the team, there's the tactical part of it. There's the coaching the players part of it. But ultimately, that's not the most important part of the overall team, of the overall organization. It's top to bottom, and whoever is running that, they don't really have a whole lot of time with that team. Sort of sounded like hey, believe me, if there's a move that's made, 1, it's not panic, and 2, don't worry about stability, because it's finding whoever the best guy is, because the point that he made is also a good one. 1, it's a pro and con. You don't have to qualify for the World Cup if you're hosting. But 2, you also don't have those World Cup qualifying matches, those competitive juices to win or get a result in this match against this country to qualify, which they didn't do with Bruce Arena as, the head coach, in which, why he, resigned. They certainly did the previous one, but still, you don't have those matches to gear you up and get ready for the World Cup matches. But I think with so much around the team, if they don't get the result they need tonight, this is probably Greg Berhalter's last match as manager.
What's interesting is, you're right. It's win or go home. Obviously, you have to for sure.
You might even go home if you win, depending on the result.
But you don't know that at the time, so it's going to make the game electric.
Oh yeah, cannot wait.
And what's interesting is too, Uruguay might sit some of their big guys because.
Well, they're sitting their coach. He's already suspended for the game because of delay in the previous match when they took too long coming out of the locker room. So they'll be without their head coach.
But because America has to win by 5 or more, just based on how the group stage works, right? So that to hop over Uruguay, it doesn't really matter for them.
Yeah, we don't really care. It doesn't matter getting first or second. It's just being better than Panama or Bolivia.
So they're just sitting here going, they're in, right? Uruguay's in. It doesn't matter for them. They're basically in, no matter, barring.
Unless Panama wins by like 8.
That's the point.
Something like that.
And so you're sitting here going, USA has way more to play for.
Yeah.
That makes them dangerous. And if you're looking at the odds right now, USA are now slight favorites.
Really?
They're slight favorites now over Uruguay. So just throwing that out there of what the odds bettors think right now.
That's interesting.
And soccer's different. It's not the same as where one team has to be -1 plus because draws are obviously very common. USA was, I think, +150. Uruguay was, I think, +190.
Just to advance, or for today? Sorry, I was
just
looking up to see what the numbers are right now.
Right now, USA's +155, and Uruguay is +190 underdogs.
Okay.
A draw is +220.
Yeah, there isn't. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, +160, +190.
You thought I was a liar, Jason?
No, I just, I don't know. I find that to be
calling
surprising.
me a truther.
I didn't see what it was yesterday. I didn't see what it was this morning. But I do find that to be of interest because, look, even if Uruguay does bench a couple of their players, you're talking about a United States team that has a lot of criticism for, how they're playing right now. And whether it's the group of players that are the collection of the team or, the head coach or what took place on Thursday, there's a lot of skepticism of this team being able to go out and put a performance there that will get the result they want. I know they're capable, but capable doesn't mean likely, doesn't mean it's definitely going to happen. They're capable of beating Uruguay. I mean, everybody's, beatable.
Got to have faith.
I've got it. We'll see what happens tonight. What I don't want is the rooting against the United States for those that don't want Berhalter to be the head coach of the. You root against him so that maybe the decision is made for the Federation, for those in charge of deciding who the head coach is going to be. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We will wrap up this hour. We'll talk with Josh Kaiser coming up at noon. Talk some baseball with him. Talked a lot of baseball in the first hour with the Royals taking 3 of 4 from the Guardians. We'll talk some baseball with Josh Kaiser coming up at noon. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. Until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Josh Kaiser coming up at noon. Mick Schaefer at 1 o'clock, KSHB 41 sports director. We'll talk some NFL football today as well, and some other things that go along with it, with the sports world of this weekend.
Why are we not in the NBA?
Why are we not in the NBA?
I mean,
well,
there's
I can
a lot
come
of
up with
reasons
a lot of
why
different reasons
not,
why
but-
we, specifically me and you, are not in the NBA.
I see what Derek White just got paid, and I go, that's Derek White. We're not even talking about like a superstar here.
There's some money.
Man.
It's amazing when it's like Paul George has until this afternoon to decide if he wants to pick up his $49 million player option.
And he turned it down and got more.
Turned it down and got more. Like,
Derek White goes 4 years, $125 million. Derek White, $125 million? Tobias Harris just had a max deal, was atrocious. Signs for like, what, 2 for 48?
It's crazy. I mean, yeah. I mean, I look, I
Why
wish
couldn't I have been
better.
6'10"?
Wish I was better. But I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had a girl who looked good. I would call
You
her. I
have
wish I had
no
a rabbit in a hat
excuse.
with a bat and a 6'4" umbrella.
You're like 6'3", Jason.
Yeah, but if I
You
was...
have no excuse.
But if I was... Yes, because 6'3" guys are all... The NBA's littered with 6'3"
Derek
guys.
White, I think, is 6'3". You could have made $125 mil, but instead...
NBA just 6'3" everywhere. You understand that when I interview Steph Curry out in Lake Tahoe, like, he's standing a little bit taller than I am, and he's the short guy?
How tall are you?
6'3".
How much you weigh?
You know, I mean...
Sorry to put you on the spot, but you're athletic.
185?
Yeah, you're basically
190?
Derek White. Derek White is 6'4", 190. You're Derek White. You
No,
could have had
he's got an
125
inch
mil.
on me, and he's got another 5 pounds. That actually, no, that's not what you think it is. So Dylan is not even marking that. He's like, nope, not worth it.
What?
Not worth it.
How
No.
do you not market that one?
Because it's not, it doesn't rise to the level. It doesn't rise to the level. It's not there.
Apparently it doesn't rise to the level.
See, that's you. See, you're the one that just wants to be littered with that.
I'm just saying. You could have been in the NBA.
I could not have been in the NBA. I promise you, I
You're
could not have been in
6'3".
the NBA. Okay? Because when I played,
Didn't want it enough.
when I played, pace and space wasn't what it is now. If pace and space was back in, late 90s, J.J. Redick before J.J. Redick. Let me tell you. As far as, anybody else is concerned. At the playground by myself, never missed. Never missed. Had the J. But, just being able to shoot when nobody's around you doesn't mean anything. You're making the NBA, man. Come on. But yes, the money is absurd. The money is... Why wasn't I a quarterback? Why am I not a quarterback in the NFL?
NBA's way better.
I mean, I don't doubt it, but it's like, why wasn't I a quarterback? Why wasn't I an awesome baseball player? A better chance of doing that than making it to the NBA, I guarantee you. Better chance of me being a baseball player in Major League Baseball than being, in the NBA. Because I don't have to have the extreme athleticism and height to be a great baseball player. I've got to have athleticism helps. Look, Bobby Witt's amazing, and he's the fastest player in baseball. But, you practice enough and have the skill and some of the natural ability, yeah, you can make it to the big leagues.
Why can't cornhole players get paid this amount of money? Because I think I would.
Because you wouldn't be able to do that either. You'd fall short with that, too. If you could do that, why aren't you a professional cornhole player right now?
Well, the money's not there.
You don't get paid enough to cornhole?
Don't get paid enough to cornhole.
I know it. Okay. So you've got to be. So it's not just about the passion for the game.
Oh no,
It's
money's
about the
very
money.
very much involved. Yeah, I'm very.
So you're chasing the money.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I don't mind chasing the money in the NBA or the NFL or Major League Baseball. That certainly makes sense.
Why would I not?
But if a niche
Yeah.
sport, then yeah.
I mean, I love playing cornhole, but I'm going to need some monetary.
I mean, the average cornhole player salary is $63,000 a year.
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
Not bad to play
That is
cornhole.
not bad.
You get your passion. You get to play cornhole a lot. You're throwing bags constantly.
Yeah, but you got to pay for your bags. Those cornhole boards aren't cheap either.
I bet you probably, if you're a professional, I bet you probably get a sponsor. But you
yeah.
probably get sponsored some bags and those boards.
I'm all about the airmail.
I think you're probably fine.
Big airmail guy.
That's perfectly fine. And even if you bought one and you're a professional, that's a write-off, man. Write that thing off, okay? You're not paying full price for that. A little bit of a tax break in the back end.
What would you go pro in?
Enterprise rent-a-car, probably. Something,
Handball.
yeah, going pro in something not sports related.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dream bigger.
No, I'll go pro in sports radio.
Ah.
I feel like I've got there.
Yeah,
you know?
You've got there. Yeah. Kind of a lame answer, but fine.
It's fine. Warren Sharp has a tweet out of the highest rate of incompletions due to inaccurate passes. Highest rate of incompletions due to inaccurate passes. We're going to do that after we talk with Josh Kaiser. So we'll talk some baseball, but we want to talk about that and some of the names that are here on this list. And, of course, the interest is, where's Patrick Mahomes on that particular list compared to some of the other quarterbacks. But we'll talk about where the Royals are compared to other teams in Major League Baseball coming up next.
Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. An hour from now, we'll hang out with Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 Sports Director. Learn funniest best. We'll get into before the show is over as well. Let's talk some Royals baseball. Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast, joining us here on a Monday at noon. Josh, what's up, brother? How are you?
I'm doing well. I had a great week of Royals baseball, so I'm jacked up to talk about it.
You know, so am I. I'm very happy that the 5 games that have taken place, most recent 5 games for the Royals, have gone the way that they have because, you know, our last conversation 1 week ago today, the Royals heading into that conversation, getting ready for the Miami Marlins, were 3-11. 4, 5, 7. Yeah, 3-11 in the last 14 games. And the most recent 7 games, they had scored a total of 11 runs and had been shut out 3 times in that stretch. That's the conversation last week. It wasn't necessarily that the sky is falling. It was like a question of, was the sky a mirage the entire time? You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
What's
Yep.
real,
Yep.
this Royals team or the one where they had this incredible start where they were 15 games over 500? And what a difference a week makes. What's this 5-2 stretch in the homestand, these last 7 games for the Royals? What's it done for you?
I mean, it's kind of reassured that they can answer the bell still. They really put themselves in kind of a deeper hole than they needed to be with the Oakland and the Texas series for sure. And they just had to figure out how they're going to respond to that with the Miami series and then the Cleveland series. And it seems like they were able to answer the bell. So it's nice to see them, you know, weather the storm of a tough schedule and tough luck and just, you know, all around, bad karma. Come back and answer that was just nice, especially in a series that you really needed to get that series against Cleveland for real. So it was nice to see them respond and go get those games.
Yeah, the team where they sit right now, and you know, not only getting the games and responding and what it means moving forward, those were so massive when Tuesday's game happened and going to bed on Tuesday night and Wednesday's show. I wasn't planning on being as animated and frustrated as I was. That wasn't the plan. I certainly was Tuesday night because, you know, it had been a couple of weeks, Josh, where we had sort of talked of like, okay, yeah, they're struggling, but you sort of take it the entirety of the season. I'm not stressing about them catching the Guardians anymore. It's about the wild card, and they lost this one. Hey, long season. All right, they're going through a slump. All right, long season. What can they do in the trade? The different conversations we're having. Let's see what the starting staff is doing. The bullpen. These guys need to come around. Like, it was more of a bigger picture view. And then on Tuesday, it sort of just broke the whole thing. It was like, all right, enough.
Yep.
I've put in my time. I've been patient. Yep. Okay. And I went from like, okay, let's take a reasoned approach to, man, I vented for about, 10 to 15 minutes on the air. And I shouldn't have necessarily vented because it was only one decision of taking Lugo out of the game and putting in Carlos Hernandez. But that felt sort of like, how are you doing this and how they're playing? And that was Wednesday morning. And then Wednesday afternoon happens. And the question I asked Jack and I asked Sterling to start the show here, Josh, and I'll ask you, was the 8th inning on Wednesday against the Marlins the most important inning of this season so far?
Man, it's got to be up there. It really, really does. I mean, we talked about last week that especially that Cleveland series is like you have to figure it out by then because the fans are going to start to lose interest. All the people calling the Royals fraudulence all season. We're going to be proven correct. You're going to start to get the apathy there because we got training camp started right around the corner. So all that could have absolutely come through. And nobody's going to be listening to me on Mondays talking to you about the Royals if that was the case. So to be able to win the fan base back in the dog days of summer it was seemingly the first really hot week of the year for fans to get out the ballpark, and they did show up. So it's good to see them get that win. It was very, very important, and I think it did kind of hinge on that 8th inning against Miami, which, everything leading up to that point, including the 7 innings before that, were all warranted. It was a dead team. They looked checked out. It was just a lifeless and desperate, I almost would say, offense especially. So to see them kind of break it out, get the elephant off their back, and kick it in the gear again was huge to see for sure.
Well, and, I had a tweet ready to go, and I'm glad I didn't have to send it on Wednesday. And the tweet was, 20 days before Mahomes and the rookies report to training camp. I mean, that was honestly like if the eighth inning doesn't happen, that was the tweet that was going out because that's how I actually felt. It felt like, all right, well, they're getting ready to face off against the Guardians. They're, 10 or maybe at that point would have been 11. I'm not sure what the standings would have looked like if they lost on Wednesday. But it was like, okay, well, this is now this stretch of baseball that they were supposed to be on the other side of the tough teams, and they're now losing to teams they should beat. They lost 2 of 3 to the A's. Now they lost 2 of 3 to the Marlins. Oh, guess what? You've got the Guardians coming into town. That's maybe the best team in baseball. Yep. I know they just lost the game against the Orioles, but they pretty much controlled that series against the Orioles. They looked like in that series against Baltimore, the better team. And it was like, all right, so maybe we'll keep track a little bit, but official countdown. Patrick Mahomes, the quarterbacks and rookies report to St. Joe on July 16th. It's 20 days away. So only 20 more days. And, hey, guess what? There's an all-star break in between there to where you don't have to worry about the Royals losing games to get to St. Joe. And then the eighth inning happened. I don't know. If we look back in a couple of months, Josh, I know people, discount momentum in baseball, and it's like momentum's only as good as your next day's starting pitcher. But I would like to see, I don't want to live in it, but I'd like to see the world if Bobby Witt pops up in the eighth inning, or Vinny, pops up after Bobby hits the triple and they lose 1-0 to the Marlins. The conversation we're having today with whatever happened in those 4 games against the Guardians, because I would place a pretty decent amount of money that they would not have taken 3 or 4 from Cleveland if they don't beat Miami on Wednesday.
I too had a tweet in the chamber that I did end up screenshotting and sending out as a okay, hand up. That was on me. It definitely turned the tides of the season, I think. And you want to talk about want to see what that world looked like. It's been happening for the past 7 seasons. That's the kind of stuff where when it starts to rain, it pours and stuff starts to slide, and you start worrying about the psyche of the clubhouse and where each player's confidences in each other are, and being able to see the team rally around a strong starting job yet again of the starting rotation, and then to be able to respond to not having any offense to kick it in the gear and come back to life and put up runs against the team they should beat, and it should not be a big deal, and it should not be a season-turning event. But I think we could definitely kind of look at that, especially in the context of what's happened over the last 7 years, to see, maybe this team is different because of this reason and this moment, and this is where the things turn around. So I think it seems like that clubhouse has got that swagger back a little bit. I saw in the press game that they got on a boat rolling through those post-game interviews again in the locker room. So I think the vibes are still pretty high, especially coming out of that Cleveland series, that maybe this was a tide-turning, season-turning event there in the eighth inning.
All right, without looking at specific players, which I want to do here in a couple of minutes, but what did they do in these? What were they doing in these 5 games in which they go 4-1 and take 3 or 4 from Cleveland that they weren't doing when they were losing to the A's, losing and getting swept by the Rangers, and going through their struggles and losing the game against the Marlins? Like, what have you seen in these 5 games as to how they've come away with 4 wins when they were finding ways to lose?
I mean, the starting pitching has been good. It has been all season. But the difference has been the offense and the bullpen, and that's really vague in general to say. But they both, it's night and day difference between what they've been in the last week compared to what they were in the month of June. So just in the last week or so, pretty much everybody but Garrett Hampson and C.J. Alexander did something to contribute, and that's including, Nick Lofton didn't hit very well, but he did draw 4 walks last week. That includes, the Michael Garcia. He didn't hit well, but he did get on base. He had a single, a double, triple, and he had 4 stolen bases on top of that. Dairon Blanco, same way. They're all finding ways to contribute. And then you have the big dogs, like Vinny Pasquantino had a 230-something WRC plus this last week. He had a great week. Bobby still doing what he did. Salvi just stepping back out of his slump and doing work. So it was a combination on the offense that the big dogs were eating, and then everybody else was still finding ways to contribute, to get on base, and to keep the line moving and get moved over. So it was a team effort on the offense, but that bullpen, whoop, things are looking up on that bullpen a little bit. It was, I think it was Royals Report Kevin on Twitter was talking about Cleveland came into that series with the best bullpen hands down in the Major League Baseball, and the Royals outpitched them. The Royals bullpen outpitched them. So we've got guys that could potentially, be counted on. We've got a circle of trust that's getting bigger, and I think that's all coming off the back of a really solid week.
Yeah, this is a team in their 5 games that have scored 25 runs, and it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games before that for them to score 25 runs. They've turned it on, and they did that against Cleveland, which was really unexpected. But they're hitting triples. Bobby's hitting a couple of triples. Isbell and Garcia back-to-back triples in that game on Thursday. Bobby with a triple yesterday. But also, the guys that we were talking about that were struggling last week. Sterling and I got in a conversation about, he was like, well, Vinny's going through another slump. And my question back was, is Vinny going through another slump, or did he have one hot stretch? Like, is this who Vinny has been? And he had a nice little stretch of baseball when he was just swinging a hot bat. And he isn't actually going through his 3rd slump of the year. He's went through one hot stretch. And since that conversation, because we offer negative reinforcement for the Royals, and when we do that, they turn it on. Hunter Renfroe did that.
That's the business we're in.
And the last 7 games for Vinny since Sterling and I had that exact conversation, in 7 games, he's batting .400. He's OPSing at 1.2. He's got 3 home runs, a double. 9 RBIs in the 7 games. He scored 5 runs. He's got 11 hits of the 29 plate appearances. He also has a sacrifice fly to go along with that. Since we talked about as Vinny, is this just who he is, and he had a hot stretch. We're just trying to do our part, Josh.
Josh knows what you're talking about.
100%.
I did the same thing with Chris Stratton a couple weeks ago, and he did the same thing with Sam Long.
See?
We all do.
We're trying to do our part, Josh.
Yep. And to be fair, I didn't do it as much as I just said I believed in Chris Stratton a little bit more than Sam Long. I'm still not 100% on board the Sam Long train, but what he's done has been very, very good.
Watch your
But
mouth about what he did on what he did on
potentially
Thursday.
the worst.
What he did on Thursday, you watch your mouth, Josh, okay? He doesn't have to
That
do
was special.
anything ever again. What he did on Thursday was enough. It was enough. He's enough. You're enough for me.
If you can get Stephen Kwan and Jose Ramirez out, you just get inducted to the Royals Hall of Fame. That's the new ground rules. You just immediately walk to the Hall of Fame.
Why didn't Ryan Lefevre introduce him on Saturday? Hosting that Hall of Fame induction for Bo. Sam Long is an active player. An active player Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
But you know what? They're scoring runs, and it's like, the offense is better. Vinny's not just been good; he's been awesome. He's been really good. Yeah. And you throw that in with what some of the other guys are doing, like. I do want to know what you think of Vinny at this point. I mean, the guy's still batting .247, so it's not where you would want him to be. He's typically 80, 90 points higher in on-base percentage than he is batting average, and that's, what he is right now. He's now OPSing at 758, so that's a little bit, better. It's gone up from, where he was earlier this year. But, like, is Vinny closer to this guy and the other hot stretch he's had? Or, is he closer to the guy who has, looked less than stellar and suboptimal through, 60 games or so of the season?
With the current roster where it is, Vinny Pasquantino needs to be in that 3 hole. And when you're struggling, when he's struggling, when Salma's struggling, when Michael Garcia's struggling, that's 3 out of 4 of your top 4 lineup spots. And you're not going to score runs if that's the case. That's just how it is. And now that they're all, with the exception of Michael Garcia, the other 3 between Bobby, Vinny, and Salvi producing is why we see stretches like this, and that's when things are starting to go well. So if that's the case, then Vinny needs to be in the 3 hole. Ideally, I don't know. I would be fine with him potentially in like a 4 or 5 spot down the road, but I'm really not counting more than like a 250, 350, 450 slash line from him at any given moment. He's gonna ebb and flow around that line anyways. But that's kind of what I would be expecting from Vinny moving forward. That's still a really good hitter and a very good part of this lineup, especially from the left side of the plate. He's playing good defense. He's a catalyst in that clubhouse. Everybody loves him. He's a marketable player. Mm-hmm. So if you can get I hate to say this name because the defense is, when he was elite, the defense was elite. He was Gold Glove caliber when he was hitting well 300. But Anthony Rizzo is kind of who I have in mind for Vinny Pasquantino. He may not be the superstar, the Chris Bryant or the Javi Baez, the big names that are going to be super exciting, but he is going to be the floor of that offense. He's going to be the catalyst in the clubhouse that's going to be leading those guys to playoff victories. And you're going to hear about other players talking about how awesome Vinny was in the clubhouse and how much of a big impact he had on the team. So I would love it, and if I could push a button right now, if he could have the Anthony Rizzo career, I'm pushing that button right now. And that's, easy, Josh, very obvious of you to pick a very good player in Anthony Rizzo, but that's kind of where I'm at. I'm Vinny.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this is, closer to who the guy actually is. And to give Vinny credit, he doesn't need to be a 900 OPS guy for this team. And in the month of June, so going back to June 1st, so if you separate the splits, I know it's still an arbitrary cutoff because, May 30th and June 4th are essentially sort of the same time, but that's how we do it. But if we just go back in the month of June, he's batting 280, and he's getting on base at 340, and he's slugging 490. He's got an OPS of 832. Over the course of 162, his numbers would be 24 home runs, 46 doubles, and 114 RBIs, and he's got 12 walks and 13 strikeouts in the month of June. So, month of June seems more of like, okay, he's Vinny. Vinny went through a rough stretch. Now he's, swinging the bat well again. If you dismiss what happened in March, April, and May when it was a rougher stretch and then a small little blip of, okay, there's Vinny being Vinny. In the month of June, he's been what you would hope Vinny would be. 277, 342, 490, and 832 OPS, and a guy who has pretty much the exact same number of walks as strikeouts.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, even when in his slumps, how many at-bats do you remember being like, man, that was a bad at-bat from Vinny Pasquantino? And that's rare. He's one of the best hitters on the team just from a pure plate appearance standpoint. He's got a very veteran discipline up there, a great approach that he always knows what he wants to hit, and if he gets into, trouble counts, he will shorten up and defend that plate and do something with the ball. So there's not much of a safer plate appearance than Vinny Pasquantino on this current roster, and I'm still going to bat with him, 9 times out of 10 if it's not Bobby Witt Jr. up there.
Yeah. Visiting with Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast. The Royals have essentially moved Michael Garcia to second base. Last week CJ Alexander got called up and Garcia was playing second base, and it's like, all right, let's see what he looks like over at second, and they brought CJ up, and I thought it was just for a couple of games, and then they would move him back over to third, and instead it's Lofton playing third, and it's Michael Garcia playing second base. The explanation from Matt Quattrero was head-scratching in that, what do you want to see him at second base and with Michael Massey, et cetera, and him being a DH. But when Michael Massey was on the IL, Garcia was playing third base. They bring Michael Massey off the IL to play DH, and now all of a sudden Garcia is a second baseman. So what do you make of this? Anything bigger to make of Garcia, who is now apparently the Royals' second baseman? Does it mean that there's somebody in the minor leagues they're bringing up? Does it mean they're looking to trade for a third baseman instead of a corner outfielder? What are you seeing, or what are you reading in this situation of Garcia playing second base now every game since they called up CJ Alexander?
I do think it is a potential trade situation. Michael Garcia is his best value to me, in my opinion, and probably to just the business of baseball, is Michael Garcia shortstop. And you're not moving Bobby from shortstop. You've seen him at third base. I'm sure teams are going to want to see Michael Garcia's defense on the other side of the bag up the middle. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit if this was the Royals were showcasing his ability to still produce at second base too. And it could be a situation where they're already talking about a deal, and they're talking to a team that needs a second baseman, and he would be one of the more controllable assets that they have that could bring back pretty good haul. It was especially telling to me because when C.J. Alexander was called and he got the nod at third base, I was like, well, they have to put C.J. Alexander somewhere that he's comfortable at the major league level so he could hit well, which that's what he was called up to do. So it made sense to keep him at third base. Michael, second base, seemed like a good idea. And then it got super weird when Nick Lofton, albeit he was talking about stability, the lineup was producing, you don't want to mess with a good thing. That's all very true and relevant and very well could be the case here. And if a trade is being talked about and falls through, you could still go back to that, that explanation and be like, yeah, we just wanted to keep things stable, nothing to see here, no smoke here. So I don't want to see Michael Garcia traded, but that's kind of where my head is at. Michael Garcia, the second baseman.
Well, it's interesting because I was looking at the exact opposite of if they moved him over to second base, then maybe they're looking to acquire or they're in conversations to acquire a third baseman and they're moving Garcia to second base. And maybe some of those talks are already a couple of steps down the road, and maybe they're thinking more third base as opposed to corner outfield would be the best way, and then DH is just figuring out who the DH is. Maybe that's Michael Massey. Maybe he can play a little bit of defense from time to time without really hurting that back. If it's Freddie Fermin, a game here, there, if it's Salvi, if it's Vinny, whatever it is, just finding the DH role, but maybe acquiring a third baseman and keeping Michael Garcia over at second base. That's more where my head was on this, but it's interesting that you're viewing it as maybe Michael Garcia on the way out to get get more back in return.
And really, Michael Garcia could be used to acquire that third baseman. It would be a more traditional third base, a little bit more traditional spot in the lineup as well, in theory. So the name that I saw, and I actually got to go to a game with like Lesky and Rainey Jazirli and Max Reaper and Matt Lamar of Royals Review on Friday. Went to the game. We were talking about that, and Lesky came and he wrote an article that I think came out this morning talking about Luis Rengifo from Anaheim might be interesting. He's more of a utility, but third base he's obviously pretty comfortable with. Plays there quite a bit in 2024. So it could be a situation where Michael Garcia is dealt for a guy that like Luis Rengifo who can play infield. He could play outfield. He's a right-handed batter. He checks a lot of boxes of what they're going to be looking for. He's controllable. He has a few more years to control after this. So maybe there's something to that, and maybe there's nothing to it at all. So it's just going to have to wait and see type of thing.
Yeah, I'd hate to see Garcia go to bring in, Rengifo from the Angels. If they're moving pieces down in the minors to bring in Rengifo, and he's a third baseman, and Garcia is your second baseman, and Rengifo plays some second base as well, but also he's batting leadoff for the Angels, and he's getting on base at 360 this year. Last year got on base at 340, as a 26-year-old. The concern is that he's 27 years old, and this is a career year for him, that he's putting it together and OPSing at 810. And, again, getting on base at 362. He's batting 317, but that on base, if he's the leadoff hitter, that's phenomenal to be able to acquire that. I'd hate to lose Garcia to bring in Rengifo, but maybe that's the exchange that they're looking at. But that would make sense if it's not necessarily losing Garcia, but it would make sense if they're down the road with maybe that move and they want this guy to come in and play third base. So you move Michael Garcia over to second base because you feel like that's going to give you the best defense. Rengifo, who plays a good third, and then up the middle with Bobby Witt and Michael Garcia. And then, Vinny over at first base, that, okay, now you're maximizing your defense. And if Michael Massey needs to play second base every once in a while, okay, well, then Garcia can play third and Rengifo can play, in the outfield. He's played a little bit of that. Like, you can move him around in different places. That would make sense as long as he's close to the player he's been the last couple of years and not the player he was the 2 years prior. So,
and I think the soften the blow, a name that keeps coming up in trade talks too is Carlos Estevez, who would help bolster the back of that bullpen too. So if we're talking about Estevez and Rengifo for Michael Garcia, that both of those guys are controllable. Like I think it's like this season and next, and Rengifo might be another year after that.
Rengifo is
That could help
controllable
soften the blow
through 26. So I think you get him 2 years after this year. 2 more years after this year.
Yeah, even better. Like even if that's prime, that's still utility role floor. And if you really believe in a guy like Caden Wallace, who just moved into the MLB pipeline, 10 third baseman prospect, if you believe he's your third baseman of the future, then you're buying some time to bridge that gap and still stay competitive and still have Rengifo, serving a pretty valuable role with Nick Lofton, with other utility guys that you don't necessarily have to go pay the Garrett Hampsons, the Adam Frazier's to come in and do. So I think there could be a plan to that, and there's something to that. But again, we'll have to wait and see if that's serviceable at all. But it is something interesting.
What about the possibility of trading Freddie Fermin? If a team needs a catcher, more of an everyday catcher.
Yeah, it's a luxury. It's a backup hitter, a backup catcher that can be both good at catching and at offense. So that's an everyday catcher if he's able to hover around 300 and produce pretty well behind the plate. So it is interesting. It's also a cheap guy that is probably on the wrong side of, what is he, 29? Is he 30 now? I can't remember what he is. He's up there.
He is.
Not necessarily. It's cheap. It's a good, luxury to have. You have other guys in the organization that can potentially fulfill that defensive replacement role. But I do like that rotation of having him, Salvi, and Vinny in the lineup almost every day, going between the catcher spot, the first base, and the DH spot. So if Fermin is able to spell both Salvi and Vinny, who both benefit greatly from, somewhat regular days off, especially Salvi at this age, then what Fermin can do just from a rotational aspect is almost priceless, because you're kind of amplifying what Salvi and Vinny can do on regular days of rest while also producing at the plate and also being comfortable with all your pitchers. So it is one of those assets that you can look to trade. It is a luxury to have, but boy, is it kind of a luxury that, produces both in meaningful and obvious ways, but also in less obvious and more perspectual ways. So we'll have to see about that, but I don't want to see Fermin go.
Well, I know I don't want to see him.
Michael.
Yeah, I don't want to see him go either. He just might be the most valuable guy to trade if somebody needs a catcher that's competing. And it's like, look, it's not that we don't believe this guy's going to be an everyday player. We're trying to get him in the lineup every day. We're not trying to hide him and say, oh, these are his numbers, so we're not going to play him so it looks better. Like, hey, we're trying to get him, and look at his defensive metrics. He's one of the best catchers in baseball by those advanced analytics. So he's really good. Now he's 29 years old. I looked up his age. He's 29. But hey, he's going to help you for the next 2-3 years. And if the Royals look at it and go, well, we've got Salvi for 2 more years, and then hopefully Blake Mitchell or Carter Jensen's ready to take over at that point. And what do you get in return for Freddie Fermin versus what you would have to have when you're spelling Salvi with Nola as your backup catcher in those games? And what you're not getting when Freddie Fermin's bat is in the lineup, even if he's not catching, if he's DHing, et cetera, are you getting something more in return that brings you a value than just simply that? Because if you're looking at a DH, well, Michael Massey can be the DH. And then, he can, you figure out what to do if Salvi has to DH, but then you've got the backup catcher in there, or Salvi playing first base. Well, then it's not Freddie Fermin, it's somebody else, but he might be the most valuable trade piece to come back when the guy's batting 290 and, OPS plusing over 100 as a catcher, and he's doing a damn fine job behind the plate. That might be your most valuable trade aspect. That might hurt, but doesn't necessarily hurt you in the future because you're looking at Salvi for 2 more years.
Yep. And I think both him and Michael are both guys that you could potentially shop to an NL contender. You don't necessarily have to wait on, are we buyers, are we sellers? You could ship both of those guys out right now to any team. And we talked about a little bit last week, like, who's really selling? Is there 5 teams? Well, then everybody's going to be trying to pick the meat off their bones, no matter how lean those are. If you're dealing from either Michael Garcia and or Freddie Fermin, you're opening up the pool of teams that would be interested in those guys and potentially the impactful players to get back in a haul for those guys. So I agree. It's something they've got to look at, but something they don't have to do, which is always a position you want to be in.
Yeah. Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast. He's got 2 starts left before the All-Star break. Does Seth Lugo start the All-Star game if you're guessing right now?
He damn well should.
Okay. Yeah, I don't disagree.
End of story. No.
All right, Josh Kaiser, thank you for joining us, man.
Josh, you nailing it again.
I agree.
No, he's
well done.
Mean, I think it's a situation of should he versus will he. I don't think he will. I think some big name will get it, including not necessarily a big name, but Tanner Houck is also having a really, really good year. Terry Skubal has been really, really good. So I feel like it's one of those situations where it's a popularity contest in that starter role, but we should see Seth Lugo at some point in that All-Star game. I just hope it's not the situation where, he gets snubbed altogether and we don't see him at all. It's got to be potentially the most deserving case to either be the All-Star American League starter or at least get in that mix for sure.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's Skubal, Corbin Burns,
Yep.
maybe
Burns would be that name recognition guy.
Yeah, but I mean, the best pitcher in the American League consistently throughout the year has been Seth Lugo. He just doesn't have all the strikeouts compiled that some of these other guys have. That obviously a Tariq Skubal has, and some of these other guys, like he doesn't have the Cole Reagan strikeouts, but he has been the Royals' best pitcher, and he is leading the American League and the majors in ERA and innings pitched, wins, but also WAR for pitchers specifically, adjusted pitching runs, base out runs saved, base out wins saved, win probability added. All of those things he leads all of Major League Baseball in as a pitcher. What I brought up in the first hour, Josh, was he's scheduled to pitch that Saturday against Boston on the road before the All-Star break, and the rule used to be that if you pitch Sunday, you weren't allowed to pitch in the All-Star game. They've changed it to where, the team and the player can decide, and if they allow him to pitch, but also is there a pitch count? Like, I think the Royals would be fully on board if he got named the starter to go out there and throw an inning on Tuesday. Maybe not your traditional All-Star game starter that throws two, but to throw an inning there to start on Tuesday.
Yeah, and I mean, it would be nice to have some kind of, I know it's impossible to say this now, but with the off day today, it makes you wonder if there's a possibility to kind of reset the rotation or reconfigure things based around that. But it's way too early to get that notification at this point.
Well, I mean,
and I'm not sure if they have another off day.
Yeah, but I don't think they do, but then it would it'd have them start on Friday. Against Boston, you would still have him against Colorado and Boston, which is who he's scheduled to start against right now. So you would still have those same. He'd start against Colorado and Boston just on different days, and it would be then 3 days rest to go out there and start instead of 2 days rest. It makes it a little more likely. I don't know. Maybe they do that.
Yeah, and I would have a lot of faith in him to be able, if he did go 3 days rest, and he can go out there and give an inning and have the start and have the whole ceremony of being the AL starter. That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, 3 days rest, he might give him 2 innings. Like 2 days rest, I think they'd be okay with him throwing an inning. Like, all right, he can start. He's going to throw an inning.
He's an animal.
Yeah, but not your typical. If you're the All-Star starter, you typically get 2 innings. But you know what? He gets the ceremony. He gets the name He gets the recognition of for the rest of his life. He started an All-Star game as a pitcher, but he just pitched Saturday, and he's going to blow past his innings pitched for a career high in his career. So get him an inning, and then shut him down, and then he'll pitch the third game coming out of the break against the White Sox on Sunday, as opposed to maybe the first game or second game on a Friday or Saturday. Give him an extra day or two of rest after that, just to get him back after that quick little game on Tuesday. So we'll see. I hope it happens. I think he should be the starter, but he's got 2 more starts to prove it, and Tariq Skubal does too. So if Lugo struggles his next 2 starts and Skubal's amazing, then that could be the difference. I think right now, he's got a slight edge over Skubal, and he can widen that gap or lose that over the next 2. We'll find out. But yeah, I would like to see him start. I think it'd be awesome because based on voting, I think he'd be the only Royal starter in the All-Star game this year.
I wouldn't be too upset if he had plenty of rest coming off the Rockies series. They only needed him for 5. He got 80 pitches in, and they were already up 8, so why not give it to the bullpen after that? Same way with the White Sox on the back end of that All-Star game break. I'd be fine with that same type of situation. Just conserve that arm. Let's save it for a little bit down the road.
Yeah, a guy whose career high is 140 pitches in an inning, and before that was 80. I don't know that you want him to lead Major League Baseball
Yeah.
in innings pitched that next year. So, but we'll find out. He seems to. I would say the guy that knows his body. I think Seth Lugo probably knows his body and his arm and all of that stuff pretty well. So, we'll see what happens moving forward. So. Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast. Josh, you're the man. Appreciate it as always. Hopefully next week's conversation is just as enjoyable as this one, and not what last week's was. Hopefully just keep this thing moving, man. Appreciate it as always, brother.
Of course, always enjoy it. I need to share one more thing. That game on Friday, we had a tornado watch coming in, and we were sitting in the Lowe's level, so we were seeing the lightning and stuff rolling in, and all over the scoreboard was promos for the Twisters movie, and I was like, man, Jason Anderson would just love this scene right now. It's just straight out of that movie. I got to share it with him on Monday. So
would have been
happy to share that visual.
Josh, somebody in your section or with you had to at one point go, Bill, Joe, it's heading right for us. And then you turn and go, it's already here.
Food.
If that didn't happen, then what's the point?
Food. That's real. It was worth nothing.
Food. Green
so many great lines. We watched that. My wife and I watched that again just last week. It was just so rewarding.
I love it. It's amazing, and it's so factual and realistic. That's what I love most about it.
Nothing, no notes. Perfect film. Chef's kiss.
Absolutely, man. We often see cars just land next to other cars that were thrown from a tornado. While you're, driving around. So that happens all the time. Josh, you're the man. Appreciate it, brother. Go ahead.
Mooing cows.
We've got cows.
Or mooing cows twisting
Right.
about a water funnel cloud. It's really just the perfect.
Yeah.
It's like Fast and Furious for meteorologists.
So, more cows. I think that's the same one. So,
Same cow.
Hey,
Yep,
you know what, Josh?
really good.
Here's
I gotta
the
get
thing.
out of here, boys. Thanks
Look,
for having me.
I appreciate
Love
it, man. But look, you realize that no matter what you do, you're not going to have this baby the old-fashioned way, even if you stand on your head. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels, Drake. Dylan, you look different.
I don't. Sometimes I'm walking by and somebody will be like, "Hey, can you sit in here for a minute?" And I do.
What just happened? I look back and
I know it's
Drake.
Hey, Drake, what's up, man? I was going to ask Dylan all these questions about what he did this weekend, but I guess
man, nice hair grew back, huh?
good for you. Good for
Not
you,
all of it.
Dylan. What happened to the facial hair? Oh, come on. Well, I guess the season's not over yet. Once the season's over, that facial hair will be there until pitchers and catchers. So you know that about Drake, right, Sterling?
Yes, I do.
Okay, just
Yeah.
making sure you knew that story about Drake.
I also kind of forgot that he went to Drake for a second, and Drake was actually good at basketball. Was it last year or the year before?
It's been a couple of times.
Been a couple of
Yeah,
times.
like one time. I mean, Davis, both Dad and Keno,
Well, I
had some success.
I picked him though. It was last year, the year before, to upset someone, and I didn't even put two and two together for a second until just now.
That
Yeah, I knew he went to Drake. I knew it was the bull. I saw the shirt and it kind of was like, oh, Drake Bulldogs. I forgot Drake basketball. Oh my gosh, Drake basketball was good.
That's the
And
same
then
place?
Drake. Yeah.
Drake basketball is the same place as Drake?
Is that in Indiana?
Yes, it's Indiana, right next
Des
to
Moines,
Indiana. It's in Iowa.
It's in Iowa.
It's right next to. It's in Indiana, Iowa.
I don't know,
It's
man. I knew it was an I.
It's right next to Indiana, Iowa, the city. It's in Des Moines.
I knew it was
There
an
is in
I.
Indianola, Iowa.
See, there you go.
See, I'm not wrong.
Yes. There's Indiana, Nola, Iowa, and there's an Illinois, Iowa, and it's right there in Des Moines.
There's also IUPU.
Yeah, just to the east of Des Moines is Illinois, and then just to the east of that is Indiana, and then Ohio,
In Texarkana.
Ohio.
And Nevada.
That's right.
And California. I don't know.
right.
I don't. In Versailles, you can't talk
Versailles.
Kentucky.
It's Versailles.
Not in Kentucky. It's not.
It's Versailles, but it's Louisville.
Is there Versailles in mid-Missouri as well?
And it's Versailles, it's not Versailles?
Correct.
Okay. Just
You really got us off topic here, Drake.
No, he
like
hasn't. You did.
we were really doing a very astute show until
well, let me
I realized about Drake basketball all of a sudden.
let me bring this up. For those that when we talk about drafting and how good the Royals have and maybe have not been at times at drafting, and having the number 4 pick a number of years ago and drafting Asa Lacy, that certainly has not worked out. But having the number 2 pick and Bobby Witt being there in a draft where it was Rushman and Bobby Witt, and you got Bobby Witt. You had the number 2 pick. You didn't have the number 3 pick. You had the number 2 pick. Number 3 pick, that would have sucked, right? Because then you would maybe you got Andrew Vaughn. Old Mother Hubbard and only Vaughn's in the cupboard from Major League Baseball. Maybe you drafted that guy, but you didn't because a 2-player draft, you got Bobby Witt. My annoyance of the draft lottery only increases when Wyatt Langford he hits for the cycle last night as a rookie for the Texas Rangers. And a man who was the number 4 pick in the draft in 2023. Maybe the Royals don't end up with him because the Royals had the number 5 pick in the draft. So you would say, well, they definitely don't end up with him as the number 5 pick because he went number 4. But point being, he went number 4 to the Rangers, who were supposed to be picking 2 spots behind the Royals. The Royals picked 8th. They should have picked 5th. The Rangers should have been behind the Royals, picking 7th. Instead, they picked 4th. The Tigers should have been picking 6th. Instead, they picked 3rd. The Minnesota Twins should have been picking 13th. Instead, they picked 5th. All ahead of the Royals that should have been picking behind the Royals. In a 5-player draft, the Royals should have had the 5th pick. Skeens, Cruz, Max Clark, Walker Jenkins, and Wyatt Langford were the 5 guys that were like, these are the dudes. And how much different is this Royals team if, say, the teams as they were supposed to be, Nationals, A's, Pirates, Reds, Royals, if Langford was there at number 5? How much different is this Royals team if he's there? But that's sort of the point. That's the BS part about the damn lottery. It's dumb. It's stupid.
I'm like the only one who I think.
You like the lottery?
Yeah.
Well, then you're dumb.
No, but like.
You're dumb.
So you hate it in the NBA too?
I don't care about it in the NBA.
Well, that's the point. It's because we're here in Kansas City and it screwed the Royals. It's the only reason why we care. If it helped the Royals,
I cared before.
If
I
it
cared
helped,
no, I cared before. When they announced the lottery, I said this is absolutely a mistake. It's dumb because they're trying to keep people from tanking.
Yeah.
Right, but in baseball, it's not the same. They don't have the same salary cap. There are
Agreed.
the haves and have-nots. You are hurting the have-nots by doing this to give to the haves just because the haves have more money to spend.
Well, it was
It's
also
dumb.
to try and bring up and bolster the guys like the Hunter Renfroes, the middle-of-the-pack veterans who are clearly better. Well, now he is right now, but the guys who were the Cedric Mullins almost to an extent, were guys who are better than the younger guys. In keeping a team from having all young guys, you don't have to ever pay the middle-of-the-pack guys, the veterans who are 28, 29, 30, 31-year-olds.
So those teams that lost in the lottery, they're out spending more money then? They're out spending more money?
I wouldn't say the A's are, but the Royals clearly have, and that's partly because they've gotten better, but they spent a lot of money this past offseason.
Right, and they wouldn't have had to with Wyatt Langford. They'd have a younger guy, and it's not like they're out there just not spending money for the sake of not spending money. If there was a team that was losing and was trying to lose, it wasn't the Royals because they kept spending money and losing.
You're only mad because...
No, I'm not. I was mad before.
The Royals got screwed.
Go back and listen to the tape, Sterling. That is absolutely
you find
bullshit.
The tape.
That is wrong, dude. That's absolutely wrong.
My point is...
That's wrong. Go back and listen to the tape. You're telling me that I'm mad about this because the Royals got screwed when I said it beforehand. If the Royals benefited, it would still be a bad rule. If the Royals got the number one pick, it would still be bad. It would still be dumb.
This does not bother me whatsoever.
So
does it suck? Yeah.
Okay.
It sucks, yeah. But I like in the NBA.
But this isn't the NBA.
And I don't mind it in baseball. Yeah.
What's the salary cap in the NBA?
Oh, I don't know how much it's.
Okay,
it's
cool.
a lot.
What's the salary cap in Major League Baseball?
Sure.
Right. Okay, there's a difference. It's a different league.
I will never have an issue with what they tried to do with it. Doesn't bother me because the Royals have just as good a chance as this year having a better record and then all of a sudden get a better draft pick than they could have had with their slot.
But they wouldn't have to win the lottery. They would just simply get their slot. They would have the fifth pick.
I get that. My point is this does not bother me. What you know me, I love to rip on Rob Manfred as much as anyone else. That dude drives me insane. Yeah. This is not one of those situations where I'm going to rip on him because did the Royals get screwed? Yeah, I'm not denying that.
So if the Royals lost the lottery in the 2019 draft and picked third and don't have Bobby Witt, it's better for baseball? It's better for baseball.
It would suck.
The Royals would then be forced to spend a lot more money. They would just go out and spend all that money on a different player as opposed to Bobby Witt if they had Andrew Vaughn instead of Bobby Witt.
No.
Okay.
They
so
would not do
they
that.
lost.
But
they were a bad team. They therefore got to pick higher and got a difference-making player, which is helping them win now.
The thought process was, and again, I'm saying it one more time, is
say
to
it as many times as you want. It's
and
still
help.
wrong.
Well, it's not wrong.
It's absolutely wrong.
They were trying to.
They were trying
help.
to stop tanking. They weren't smart enough to understand that the tanking isn't necessarily happening when teams don't have the money that the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Rangers have to go and spend that money.
Yeah, because the A's.
They don't have the money. The Royals don't
have
that
the
money.
money.
They don't have the money. Are you kidding me?
Not the same
That's
amount.
factually incorrect.
Not the same amount, but say they don't have any money to spend.
They don't have
is
wrong.
The
money. Do you know what $60 million difference is every year when you're talking about
a
TV network deal?
The Royals just found money this year? The Royals just found money this year. They didn't have that in the past? They didn't have it last year? Did they just find it in the cushions of the couch?
So they're going to go every year and spend $120 million every single year? No, they didn't spend it last year, so they were able to spend it this year.
Sure.
If they spent it last year, they wouldn't be spending it right now.
They knew where they were at. It's the same thing
right.
with the Nationals.
They have to be more
A's
economical. But when they're getting $60 million like the Rangers are getting for their particular TV network deal, and the Braves are getting every single year, that adds up.
$40 million
less. Yes, $40 million less this year. $40 million less next year. $40 million less the year after that.
Sure.
That adds up to $120 million over 3 years.
And I'm glad that eventually they got a better deal. TV deal. The original one was atrocious, and that obviously was a huge
deal.
I'm saying the Royals from the previous TV deal.
Well, their TV deal still sucks. That's why Bally's did not bankrupt. That's why Bally's wasn't worried about paying the bill to the Royals because they were making money off the Royals. It was a crappy TV deal. They weren't making money. It was too good. It was too good. No, it's not the organization. It's baseball. It's baseball. They thought this would help with tanking. It was dumb from the beginning.
Well, we
it's
don't know
not
if it
helping
has
with
helped or
tanking.
not, though. We have not. Check it out in 20 years. Saying it in 3 or 4 isn't all of a sudden saying, "Yep, that's it. We figured it out." It either did or didn't. You have to have a larger sample size.
So the A's and teams that were losing went out and spent a lot more money that they weren't spending
the A's,
before.
the Alex, the ownership don't use the A's, and I'll stop using them as well because the A's are just obviously a horrendous.
Okay, so the Pirates,
they're moving.
The Pirates got the number 1 pick.
Are the Pirates not better?
Did they go out and spend money?
We'll see.
The
who they brought
money
in.
spent.
Let's see who all they brought in this year.
Yeah, they brought in Paul Skeens.
And some of the other guys got better this year. Their pitching staff.
The Pirates were the 3rd pick. Were supposed to be the 3rd pick in the draft. The Pirates had the 3rd worst record. Well, they're tanking. Oh, by the way, you get the number 1 pick. The Nationals were supposed to have the number 1 pick.
Yasmani Grandal. They went out and got. They kept Brian Reynolds, brought in, again, small name, Michael A. Taylor, brought back Andrew McCutcheon.
My God.
Not
thank
big
God,
names.
Thank God they're not taking anymore.
Brought in Connor Joe.
My God. Is that the Yankees or the Pirates? I'm confusing
did I say
those
Juan
teams.
Soto or did I say guys the middle of the whole argument I had was the middle guys, those 30-year-olds who need second contracts that weren't getting them in baseball. The Connor Joes, the Yasmani Grandal's been around a long time.
Mm-hmm.
The Michael A. Taylors, the Brian Reynolds get another contract. Edward Olivares. I don't know when they traded for Joey Bart with
So increase the floor while creating a cap.
Well, I've said that for the longest time. You won't hear an argument from me there. They should have a salary cap floor. Yeah, I've been pushing for that for as long as I've been a baseball fan.
Right, but this is doing the exact opposite of what they wanted it to do. It's not helping teams from tanking.
I mean, the Pirates are 40 and 43, and they obviously Skeens is a huge help. Mitch Keller's a huge help. Jared Jones is a huge help. They're young guys they drafted. But also the guys they brought in are helping too.
They were supposed to be the number 3 pick. If they were the number 3 pick, how good would Paul Skeens be on the Pirates? He wouldn't be on the Pirates.
Sure.
But they got the number 1 pick, so they got Paul Skeens.
Yeah.
So they're winning because they were a bad team, and they got a more talented player
So
to help them win.
They wouldn't take.
Jared Jones is a draft pick too.
That's what I said. I said Jared Jones.
Yeah,
but he's also a draft pick.
Right.
You're telling me then there wouldn't have been a tank for Skeens? There would have been more teams trying to tank for Skeens then?
So the Nationals lost because they were trying to get Paul Skeens. So the A's lost because they were trying to get Paul Skeens. The Pirates
A's lost
because
they have the A's lost because they have horrible management. They're trying to go to Las Vegas.
And what about Pittsburgh?
Well, I don't know what they were last year. They're 40 and 43 right now.
And you know what?
With the veterans they brought in,
it would
bad.
be smart to tank for Skeens. It would be smart to do that.
I hate tanking in sports. I understand it. I completely get it. And as a guy who was a Sixers fan, I understand.
So you don't like trading? So you don't like you didn't like the Aroldis Chapman trade?
That was different.
Why was it different? They became,
wasn't tanking.
No, but they became a worse team to get a better player. They became a worse team by trading Chapman to get a better player in what they felt like long term was Cole Reagans.
Getting youth isn't tanking. That's not tanking.
No, they're getting worse. When you sell,
that's not tanking.
Yes, it is. It is absolutely tanking. It is selling off your better players because you want to get better in the future.
Tanking is what the Astros did for 8 years. Tanking is what the Baltimore Orioles did for 8 years. Tanking's what the Sixers did.
You're just calling it something different.
Well, okay,
but they both worked.
No,
all those
obvious
worked
tanking.
Out, too.
The Sixers. How many championships have the Sixers won?
Okay, I mean, I'm saying
how many championships has OKC won? How many championships has Baltimore won? They look good right now. I'm not disagreeing. They're better now than when they were when Andre Iguodala was the guy.
Right.
But the point is, how many of those guys won? Rangers didn't really tank. They brought in guys. They brought in Marcus Simeon, Corey Seager, Jacob deGrom. They were bad for a couple years, yeah. How many teams has tanking?
Well, the Astros have 2 championships.
No, the Astros are the only one that's actually worked for. How many times has tanking actually ended up in a championship?
Okay, a championship, yes, I understand that. But as far as owning a franchise, taking it from bottom
What's the
and
point of
basement
winning?
of the league to competing every
because
year
you're trying to win
playoffs.
a championship.
You're trying to win a championship, yes,
right,
of course.
and you're going to do that with better players.
Sure.
So,
and like the end result,
by trading away players at the July deadline,
sure,
you have become a worse team to get better in the future.
That's
which
still
is
not tanking.
It's exactly tanking. That is exactly what you're doing.
Tanking
you are
is
losing
trying to lose on purpose.
But you're becoming a worse team.
But you're not trying to lose on purpose.
No major league team is trying to lose on purpose when they're out there.
The Sixers were trying to lose on purpose. OKC.
Not one player on the court for the Sixers was trying to lose a game. There isn't one player. They just built a team that sucked so they would lose, which is what you're doing when you're trading teams at the trade deadline. You are trading away your good players for better players in the future. You're not nearly as good of a team. But those players out there on the field are not trying to lose. They're trying to win. Their job isn't guaranteed the next year. Nobody on the Sixers was trying to lose. Nobody on Oklahoma City on the court was trying to lose. But when you trade players away in baseball, you are becoming a worse team so you can get better in the future, which is exactly what tanking is doing. You become a worse team so you can get a better chance of getting a better player. It is tanking, is the exact same thing. So if the Royals last year were tanking when they traded Chapman, because Chapman would have made him a better team, better player. But they got Cole Reagans, not knowing Cole Reagans would end up being that. So they actually ended up getting better. But they were willing to take more losses last year by trading their players at the deadline so they can get better this year. And they traded Aroldis Chapman. Thank God they were willing to trade talented players for somebody that would help them in the future because they're benefiting from that right now in Cole Reagans.
My point is, again, going back to the start of this whole thing, I have zero issue with the lottery. Zero issue with the lottery. They were trying to, and to an extent, the Reds were horrendous last year, correct? They're not good this
Last year? They weren't horrendous last year.
They're 39-45. They went out and got Frankie Montas, right? They went out and brought in Jeimer Candelario. Like, they're going out and trying to... These are the guys I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the Sotos or
the Reds started winning again because of their draft picks. They started winning again because the guys they drafted and then signed in the international free agency. Ellie De La Cruz was $10,000. Like Jonathan India, the pitchers, like they were draft picks and international signings. Like they didn't go out and spend a whole bunch of money because they didn't win the lottery or whatever, because they were supposed to pick fourth and they ended up picking seventh in 2023.
I think you know where I stand. I know where you stand. I think the lottery is fine, man. Just because it screwed the Royals does not mean I'm gonna change my
luckily for me, I'm not changing my opinion on the lottery based on it screwing the Royals. I'm keeping the same opinion that I had before it started of saying this is dumb. Whether it benefits or hurts the Royals, it's dumb. You pick from the spot. Why didn't the NFL do it? Why didn't the NFL do it? They should just get rid of teams. We're trying to tank. I mean, come on, the Panthers sucked. The Bears sucked. I mean, Miami Dolphins, they were trying to get better. Like all these teams were trying to get quarterbacks. Like they were tanking. And
it doesn't fix tanking. It only makes it so that the teams that are already terrible compete just a little harder.
Right.
They were already going to be terrible.
Yeah, it helps out with the Rangers when they're going in on their path to winning a World Series. They get a guy who's helping them literally the next year in Wyatt Langford, who's a plug-and-play player for the Rangers. Yes, good for them.
And we all know
it's
drafting fourth overall is going to be a hit every single time.
No,
we know
it doesn't. It doesn't.
We know that. Like Asa Lacy, obviously.
Right, exactly. And drafting second overall is going to be a hit every single time. We know that it always second overall. Oh, wait, Bobby Witt. So maybe the higher you pick, the better chance you do have.
Sure.
Because by that theory of just saying if you miss at the number 4 pick, therefore every second pick in the draft is going to be Alex Gordon, or it's going to be Bobby Witt, or it's going to be if you pick somebody that
Andrew
sucked.
Vaughn or someone else, or Spencer Torkelson, or
I don't know. Every fourth pick is Spencer Torkelson, or it's Wyatt Langford. Warzone next.
family since 1958. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
Coming up in a couple of weeks, the Royals have the number 2 pick in the Major League Baseball draft. They've got the number 6 pick in the Major League Baseball draft.
Do we know? Is it a 6-person draft this year? Is it
no? It's
2?
a 5-person
Is it
draft.
8? Yeah,
it's
probably,
a 5-person draft. Whatever. If the Royals had the 3rd pick, it'd be a 2-person draft. I actually don't know. I just know that they have a better chance of getting a stud player by picking 2nd than 6th.
When was the last time somebody traded up? Could they trade up for that?
Trade. They need to start being able to trade
nice.
draft picks. You really do, because
You can
then
trade
if they're doing it
compensatory
like
picks.
other leagues,
But if they just started compensatory because Drew Waters was for a compensatory pick.
and so they finally allowed those. But I mean, if you're trading at the trade deadline and you're essentially tanking the rest of the way, you're trading some of your players to get better. Why not trade for a draft pick or 2 or something like that? I'll trade.
Are we doing this again? Are we just going to do this with Mick now, where we're just going to argue?
Oh, you don't want that.
So
There's a right and wrong answer.
So
here.
I'm just alone
Thank you,
on
Rick.
a
Yeah.
hill, just by myself, just
Yeah.
trying to kick down, and all the peons trying to tear me down.
No, we're not peons.
I kind of feel like
it's not really a hill. It's kind of like a raised ant dwelling.
But I kind of feel like if we're really talking about right or wrong here, I kind of feel like we're on the hill as sort of like General Meade, and you're like Robert E. Lee, and like trying to fight against.
I don't even know if you're that strong of an army.
Yeah, against.
Do you remember? Okay, you don't.
The
You
high
might.
ground?
That first Iraq War,
like that
Iraq War,
Yeah.
right? When
Iraq.
supposedly, like, it was going to end within minutes. It could have.
Yeah.
And, like, you had
Shock and awe.
Iraqi soldiers running away from, like, cameramen on the U.S. side, right? Because they didn't know how to fight. That's what I'm seeing this battle
I
as.
see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just thinking, he said alone on a hill, and I'm like, well, if we're really like, because what is it, July 1st? Oh yeah, this was the start of Gettysburg.
I'm not going to fire till I see the whites of your eyes. That wasn't Gettysburg.
Yes.
That was the
That was not.
Revolutionary War.
That was
a little bit, yeah.
Gettysburg was.
I was getting more towards July 4th. That's the war you were going with there.
Gettysburg was. Oh, I'm Robert E. Lee. Everybody thinks I'm some great general. Oh, whoops! I just got laps run around me by General Meade, who nobody talks about or cares about.
He is an underappreciated
God.
general.
He destroyed Robert E. Lee in Gettysburg.
Get my dad on the program, who has been to every major Civil War battle site.
No kidding.
All of them from
Wow.
61 to 65.
I would love
He
to
will
go.
tell you all about General Meade.
I would love to go.
Can we just
and
like
check
bust
that
out in a USA chant or something?
Yeah,
Can we
that's
put like what's
Well-
the Lee Greenwood?
Now we were fighting each other
Yeah.
at the time, so
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
but
yeah.
now in 2024, that
Well,
I'm
we weren't
proud
fighting
to
each other. We
be
were
an
fighting
American.
traitors.
you're right. You're right.
So
Which
yeah.
war were we talking about still?
Civil War.
Yeah. Well,
we
I mean,
weren't fighting each other. We were fighting traitors. I mean, so
it was American v. American.
it's America versus traitors. It's America versus not wanting to be Americans. But luckily, they had Robert E. Lee on their side, who wasn't smart enough to realize that you didn't actually have to win the war. You just didn't need to lose it. If you didn't lose it, you won. Like if you didn't lose the war, you could succeed from the Union. You didn't have to win the war to take over the United States. The United States was trying to win the war to then get the states back who were trying to succeed. Robert E. Lee is so smart that he didn't even realize that all you had to do was just stand your ground and just not get taken over. But instead, he's like, let's charge, let's attack. We need to go and we're going to try to bait General Meade into attacking us. Oh, he's smart and he's not doing it. Bleep it. Let's attack them.
I did not have dissing Robert E. Lee on the bingo card today.
It's July 1st.
shocked,
Let's
yeah.
all get in the mood here. Let's all get in the mood.
So I was at Branson.
Again, that's the Revolutionary War, right? The July 4th, right?
Yeah, but July 1st was the beginning of Gettysburg. Was the
Oh, it
first
was.
shot.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I
July
didn't-
1st
I didn't
was
hear
the
that
I went to
beginning.
Branson.
I've been to
Like,
Gettysburg.
See, I have
change
not.
of
I
this
want
or-
to go.
No? Okay.
What was the feeling when you went to Gettysburg?
As
I bet it's like
when I was a kid.
gonna
It's like,
say,
hey, we're big old road trip.
I bet it's like an eerie, like
I'm sure.
spooky, like feeling.
Yeah,
I guess.
maybe. I know, but
Yeah.
they've got it's a tourist spot now,
Yeah,
right?
right.
You've got
Yeah.
stuff built up. But yeah, my dad, mom and dad have been there recently.
That's awesome.
Any reenactments? Did you go and see?
No, didn't see any of
reenactment?
those.
Yeah.
No.
Didn't know if you would join in.
Dude, by the way, this is going to be on cuts coming up on Friday. I haven't cut it yet, or I'd play it right now. But earlier on the Border Patrol, Drake was running the show for Jake. Drake was in for Jake, and they were talking about.
Was he at the lake?
No, he was not.
Was he baking a cake?
No, he wasn't doing that either. He wasn't out there on his with his grass and leaves and trying to rake. Wasn't doing any of that stuff.
Maybe eating a steak.
Didn't see a snake. That's right. But he
move
was
on, for goodness sake.
They were talking about their sons or whatever, and Todd's son that isn't a big sports fan, so he would sometimes wear the wrong color gear to a game of like the opposing team, right? And he's like going to the match tonight, so he's telling him you have to wear red, white, and blue. And Drake told the story. Said, "Well, my son showed up to a big banquet where everybody was getting a bunch of awards, and they told him to dress up, and so he wore a costume." Thinking that it was dressing up. Yeah, he said so. How
old was the son?
I'm not sure, but he said at the end, everybody's on stage with their awards, dressed up in like suits and dresses, and his son was up there dressed up like a Union soldier.
No,
he went as a Union soldier dressed up. That was his costume.
Well, at least it's dressed up like that. Is at least you're wearing like a suit, right?
It's an amazing story.
in uniform.
Like,
He's in uniform.
I have to see the picture of all of them in suits and ties and dresses, and he's dressed up in costume as a Union soldier.
And they let him leave the house like that.
That is literally a office bit.
Yeah, it is.
No.
Yeah, it is.
Wear
Yeah.
a costume, and then she
No,
dresses
dress
up
up.
like a cheerleader
That's
for
so good.
Wally.
So good. Mick, are you heading out there tonight?
I am. I'll be out there for the 5 o'clock show.
Are you
6
working
o'clock
or fanning it?
show.
Or
No,
both?
I'm working it.
Oh.
I'm working it. Yeah.
Doing the bull dance, feeling the flow.
Feeling the flow. I don't have a credential. We have others who are credentialed, but that whole Copa America credentialing process, it's in Spanish. The whole application thing.
Interesting.
And you had to turn over driver's license, put all his personal information in there, and it was a long process. We're like, really, Copa America? Let's just get over ourselves, okay?
Yeah.
And so that was elaborate, and I was like, I don't want to go through that. I'm not going to be there, so I'm not gonna fill out this and take an hour for this.
So you'd be out there,
But
for
I will
like
be
the
out there in the
experience
parking lot,
and
doing
the
live shots,
atmosphere,
and
but
others
not-
will be inside covering it.
Are you gonna? Are you then doing a live after?
No.
Okay. I
Mostly
don't know if
it's
it was gonna be
live
like a Chiefs
before.
game or anything to where you'd be out there watching it on TV, but hearing what's going
Right.
on. Oh, something big happened.
Yeah, it's not as big as a Chiefs game, I would say,
Yeah.
around here. But it's a big game for the United States, and it would probably, we don't kick off till 8, right? Out there. It might still be going on at 10 o'clock whenever the news hits.
Yep,
So
8 o'clock.
be out there doing a bunch of previews. We heard from some of the players on Friday or Saturday, so we'll have that sound and all that. And so, yeah, big. There's a couple simple scenarios, right? If they win, they need Panama to basically draw or lose, and then if they
not win by more
there's the goals
than
thing, and then
goal
if they
differential.
draw, they basically need Panama to lose. And
USA needs to kick ass is basically what we're saying. They need to win and win convincingly.
Uruguay's good. They're good.
Uruguay's good. Uruguay.
What are you saying, Jason?
Uruguay.
I don't even think that's how they pronounce it.
I think as you say
Are
it
you
every time,
like throwing up,
every
yeah.
time you say it, you have to be more and more demonstrative with it. It's Uruguay. What? Uruguay.
Why are you also with a
Uruguay.
British accent where you're doing
Why
like
are you
a...
doing the hawk to him?
Uruguay. Uruguay.
USA needs to spit on that thing.
That's
Yeah,
right.
you feel me?
That's right. Exactly. You feel me? That's right. They need to have Uruguay feel them tonight and just score. That's what's great about tonight's match is that a draw does you no good. So Uruguay is always wanting to score and on the front foot, and the United States tonight has to be attacking the whole time. Like this could be an awesome wide
Keep
open
11
match.
on the field. See what happens.
Yeah,
Keep 11 on the field.
Well, you know what? Weah's already not. He's like, you know what? I'm out. I'm not even going to participate.
He can't, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And the Uruguay manager is also suspended for tonight's game, so he won't be out
Really?
there. Yeah, because they were late to the match, their previous match. Yeah, Copa's very, very strict about you showing up on time and being out there when you're supposed to be out there and not in your locker room.
So they were late getting onto the field.
They were
then?
late getting onto the field from the locker room, and so they've suspended the manager for Uruguay for this
Wow.
match.
Did he get to manage the match he was late for?
Yeah, he did.
I don't think that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's like, well, if you get 2 yellows, you can't participate in the next one, right? Or too many yellows, right? If you get 2 in the same one, then you can't. You're sent off. But
Could he submit PTO for like the time he missed,
Yeah.
and then like retroact like
Must totally be a Gen Z manager, right? He's got to be like 23. Like, you know what? I'm not time able, okay? Right? You need to respect that, okay?
Yeah.
I will get to work when I get to work.
I'm trying to do my Instacart. They're like, yeah, but you're at a soccer game. But I'm also at the grocery store. I'm at the combination soccer matching grocery store.
Dude,
he should have done that, right?
I'm so mad at you right now for doing that. I am so furious.
Hold on, manager. You're at the grocery store? I thought you were at a soccer match. I'm at the combination grocery store and soccer match.
Why are you looking at me?
Well, you're still suspended from Monday's game.
That's going to get stuck in my head for the next 3 weeks, and I'm furious at you for that.
Why?
3 weeks, huh?
I'm just telling you what happened.
Get some more stuff up there.
I'm telling you what happened on Thursday in that match against
I have
Bolivia.
no idea what he's talking about. Kind of sounds like Dora the Explorer, but I'm guessing it's not that.
It was a
No, it's the
commercial.
Instacart commercial when the guy was at the football game.
Missed
At
it.
the football game?
Missed it.
I'm at the grocery store.
He played
I'm at the
every
combination
single
football game and grocery
commercial.
store. He's at the football game. He's
Like,
at the
with
grocery
the long
store.
arm that would just snake through everything.
He's at the combination football game and grocery store.
It's a good commercial. It's like the Burger King, the Whopper theme song now. Like, it gets stuck in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't make me want to necessarily eat it, but I'm
But
sure
you're
it's
thinking about
stuck.
it.
Yeah, it's
That's
there.
the point, though. That's the point.
It's both.
It's worse. It's worse if you didn't remember what it was for. You know what I mean? Because then it's like, oh, that was cool. What was that even for? I don't know. But I liked the commercial. I don't know what it was about.
Break me off a piece of that Snickers bar.
That's exactly right. Yep. That break me off a piece of that Twix. It ends abruptly. I'm not sure why, but it does. No, it's a huge match tonight. Sterling, you going?
50-50.
Okay.
Really?
50-50.
Do you have a ticket right now?
Oh, I can get tickets.
Okay.
Oh, you want a ticket? I can get you a ticket.
I'll tell you how in the break. But yeah, he's in a pretty enviable position right now.
Walk into the sales guy's office?
No. He's in a
come to me.
pretty enviable position to be 50-50 on it. I'll be honest with you.
Ball players make ball plays, Mick.
Ball players play ball. What's that?
Yeah, ball players make ball plays.
Okay,
great.
so like who,
I got on a mug.
who are
I
you
made it on
talking
a
about?
mug.
Who are you talking about there?
Players making plays, man. That's what he does. That's
Yeah.
what he does.
The U.S. team, yeah, I hope they make some plays tonight.
How cool would it? How cool would it be, Mick, if Wyatt Langford was in the Royals outfield?
It'd be
pretty
great.
neat. That'd be pretty neat.
Especially if they had the cycle.
They haven't had a cycle since George Brett.
Brett.
It's been a while. They've had a lot of draft picks since George Brett.
Billy, Bobby's gonna get one.
I think so too. Bobby's in position like 3 different times this year. Has he been like up to bat in his 4th at bat, needing one of the? Well, I think it's been like 4 times.
He
this year.
knocks
He's
out
been-
that triple out of the way a few times a
Right.
month. So yeah.
Right, that's the toughest one to get, and you know he can hit home runs. Wasn't he like a double away this year?
I think it's multiple times. I think you're right. He's been
like a double or something. Last
And
night,
one,
I mean,
one game was really early, like 4 innings. He had 3 at bats.
Yeah, I needed
3
like
of
I
them.
needed one. Yeah.
yeah.
Shocked Scott Podsednik never did it with the Royals.
It is
really
shocking.
surprised by
Yeah,
that one.
that's
Is that
a
shocking?
huge surprise. Langford needed a home run in his final at bat to do it, and he hit a home run down the left field line. That was crazy on the first pitch. I think it might have been the first pitch, but
These days, a home run's probably a double is about as tough as a home run, probably for some of these guys.
Some of these guys, I mean, the way that they're playing in the gaps, but also with Bobby Witt, it's kind of hard. Like you can't. It seems like
If it's down the line, he's going 3.
He
Either line.
he
Either
got a
line.
triple on one down the left field line.
they
That's
were
crazy.
They were shading
Yes.
him to left center, and once it was down the third base line, it was over. It's a triple. It's a triple, because
Hunter Renfroe hit a single down that same line.
that's right.
Last week.
That's exactly right.
Hey,
Yeah.
he's getting hot though.
They are shading Bobby Witt to the right.
the ball well.
They're shading him to go
They
the
are.
other way in the outfield. But the infield, not necessarily doing that. But in the outfield, they're shading him to right field, and so that hit down the third base line is a triple. And he's thinking about it out of the gates. Let's hear from Bobby Witt. Let's hear from him before we get to learn funniest best here in this hour. Here's Bobby Witt last night talking about the triples, beating the Guardians, and of course how great Seth Lugo was.
Yeah, it's huge. Seth did a great job out there. The crowd was electric, and so yeah, that was a great series win.
You guys have belief in yourselves already, but how much does this prove that you guys can compete with the top teams in this division?
Yeah, that's how we always think, and we come into each and every day and we focus on the task at hand, and we just try to control what we can control and just compete.
When you hit the triple, was it still second step you're going for all 3 like you did last time?
Yeah, most times out of the box, yeah, that's what I'm thinking 3.
How important was it to recognize that, knowing that they're playing you in the gap, that you can't take that extra 90 feet?
Yeah, just knowing they've been playing me there pretty much the whole series, and so just knowing if I hit a ball down the line that there's probably a chance to get third.
And
Yeah, and everyone always talks about your speed, but how about Salvy's speed up to first base in that first inning?
Yeah, that's huge. That's a game changer moment. Those are the little things that we do so well, and it's just Michael dropping down to Blanco, stealing third, and just his little things in those games, and it's really huge.
you mentioned Seth Lugo and what he did on the mound. But some of the coaches have had that shirt that says All-Star on it. What would it mean to see him potentially get an All-Star nod?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any potential about it. It's unbelievable what he's doing. He's just dominating the work he puts in both on and off the field, and I've been calling him the surgeon for a reason. He's just dissecting hitters up there.
Do you believe he could potentially start the All-Star game?
Yeah. I think he should.
I do too. I think he should as well, starting the All-Star game. But we talked about that earlier in the show, and Bobby Witt is doing his thing. You know, he's now leading the league. Well, now, but he's been leading the league. But now he's got 9 triples on the season. He had 11 last year. 11. And he's got 9 halfway through the year, a little more than halfway through the year. So.
The ZOUs, I feel like that should count for our stolen base home run combo, right? Didn't we have that?
It doesn't,
I feel like
though.
we should at least make a...
It doesn't because it's a triple.
Is he pacing behind his home run total from last year? Roughly, it feels like.
He has
maybe?
12, so that would be, he's what, so about 22-ish?
22,
yeah.
23.
What did he finish with last year?
30.
Yeah. So he's pacing behind.
Let me see what he did. Because was it
He's at
30
50.
last year and 49 stolen bases, if I'm not mistaken, last year? Let me just confirm that.
But
I thought
higher
he got to
average,
50.
more base hits probably, less strikeouts, I'm guessing, all that stuff.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and just pull that.
He's Bobby Witt. He's bringing triples back.
Last year, 49 stolen bases. He had 30 home runs.
30-49.
Right now, he has 12 bombs and 22 stolen bases, but 9 triples. He only had 28 doubles last year. He already has 22 right now. Way more hits.
Yeah. He's leading Major League Baseball in hits right now.
These extra base hits are cutting down on his stolen bases.
That's right. That's the problem. Yeah,
Actually,
he can't steal third when you're already at third. You know,
and his walk. That's why we should count it.
Exactly. If he hits a ball to the wall that 95% of other major leaguers would stop at second on, and he takes third, that should count as a stolen base.
Because he stole that base.
He stole that base.
He stole that base.
You
He's
know, he
also a
kinda
lot
did.
more walks this
It's a great
year, too.
point.
Yes.
His speed out of the box, he
Unless
does
I
steal
went
an extra
on the,
base.
unless I took the under on that, then
it doesn't
no.
count.
Yeah.
I think we all
I
took
think we
the over.
Yeah, I took
I
the over
think.
too.
Yeah.
We probably all took the over, but maybe not.
Because I think you dropped it a couple from what he had last year, right? I'm like, well,
I did.
he's going to
I dropped
increase
from-
it.
I dropped it from what he had last year because I was enticing you guys to go over. Because I went
brilliant
under.
like that.
That's exactly the essence.
To me, what's been so impressive with his development, just in general, here is not just the batting average from year 1 to year 2, 254 to 276 to now 312. Not just the slugging from 428 to 495 to 534, but it's the on base percentage because that was the biggest thing against him when he was swinging early in counts, which he still does, but he's making more impactful contact on these early counts. He's chasing a little bit less. You look at the walk numbers on base, 294, 319 this year. 363. Obviously, the batting average helps that, but he only had, what was it last year? 40 walks last year. He already has 27. I mean, he's just seeing the ball a lot better. He's more comfortable at the plate. That might be just as impressive as anything, not just the defense and the batting average and the slugging, but him understanding that I can take a walk. It's okay.
Well, and you just know anything in the gap, he's thinking about 3. I mean, it's 11 seconds from when he leaves the box to touching third. 11 seconds. Unbelievable. And like he keeps here's the danger you run into is if you are playing him to go the opposite way in the outfield, that down the line is a triple. You've given up a triple. Whereas if your left fielder is in the regular position he would be in, okay, maybe you give up a gapper between center and left field. It's probably not a triple. You know, it might be depending on what stadium you're in. But at Kauffman, probably not. Probably not a triple. But down the left field line, when you're already in left center, as far as he had to run, who was it? It was a Kwan yesterday that had to run a half marathon to get over there to the ball. As soon as he hit that, I'm like, that's a triple. That's a triple. They're
He could
way
have
over
gone
in
in
left
standing
center.
up, too.
Yes. And the throw was offline. It was like it was great, but you just knew right out of the gates that it was. And I think because of Bobby Witt, I do think that's why, let's say a Kyle Isbell or Michael Garcia, why both of those ended up being triples. Because you can see now the evidence in front of you of, well, I can stretch this into the triple. I may not be as fast as Bobby, but the way this, the ball's moving or the spot that it's at, I'm going to, make this a triple. Now, if it was back-to-back doubles, with Kyle Isbell and Michael Garcia, They'd have still got the run. They wouldn't have got a second run because the sacrifice fly wouldn't have scored him from second base. But I do think Bobby Witt's triples have been contagious with the, at least in that 8th inning on Wednesday when they had those back-to-back triples. I think because Bobby's hitting them. I think, the same thing. Or was it when did they have the back-to-back triples with Isbell? That was Thursday, right? It was Thursday. They had the back-to-back triples on Thursday.
Yeah, I don't think they're, obviously trying to hit triples, but if you see that out in front of you of like, okay, this guy's arming right, this relay, all that stuff, and he made it easily. I'm slower than Bobby, but only a step or two slower than I could get there as well. So yeah, when you see you're testing those fielders' abilities out there, and you're seeing it in front of, I think that makes it more likely for you to go in those situations.
And I think the difference that could be happening with this team right now, as opposed to maybe last year, the year before, or whatever, is okay. You hit one down the line. All right, there's a double. So I'm going to round second. I'm going to look at third base, see if pick it up. Does he bobble it or not? I'll go to third. But now, out of the box, I'm thinking 3.
How about you shut it down after second base and not halfway to second base?
Now I'm thinking triple, and I'll stop at second. Not thinking second, and if he bobbles it, I'll go to third if you've got the speed. Because Isbell made it on his triple, and he stumbled and almost fell. He stumbled, regained his balance, and then slid into third. It was close to being thrown out, but that's because he stumbled and lost his balance. He would have been safe by a decent margin. Garcia was safe even though he's sliding with his feet. First slide, which is still weird.
Triple too. Look at the whole squad's getting involved.
But I think when your mindset is out of the box, I'm thinking triple. You're more likely to get one as opposed to I'm thinking double. Oh, wait, he bobbled the ball. Now I'm going to head to third.
And, you're putting more pressure on the defense, which leads to more mistakes out there. Not as clean of a pickup maybe out there in that right field corner, or you're trying to turn that relay quick and you can't get the grip in your glove, and that takes an extra tick off the clock. And so, I absolutely think that's a great aggressiveness on the base paths, right? Whether it's stealing, when the ball's in play, let's go. You're not a good enough offense to you know what? I'm going to hold up at second base here because we got a 3-run homer coming up in a couple at bats, like the Yankees or somebody like that.
Earl Weaver, don't steal bases and get thrown out. Get on base and let the guy hit the 3-run home run.
Yeah, they don't have that. They don't have that.
They don't have the 3-run home run.
When they do hit home runs, nobody is on base.
Well, Salvi had one guy on base for him.
Finally got it.
Was it the 6th or 7th inning?
And that's a big homer because
insurance, baby.
I'm remembering these runs like before that the bullpen's given up and games are going to win anyway. I remember those.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Learn funniest best from the weekend. What we learned, the funniest from the weekend, the best from the weekend. We'll do that next. little breaking news in the NBA. Klay Thompson will be joining the Dallas Mavericks.
Whoa.
On a 3-year, $50 million contract.
3 years.
3 years,
Imagine
$50 million.
3 more years of him having the shooting yips and inability to move defensively.
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll fix the Mavs.
They'll be fine. They'll be fine. But it breaks up the big three there in Golden State as Klay Thompson is now a Maverick. He is not there with Draymond and Steph.
Officially making him the Scottie Pippen of that era.
Is that right?
Because he is going to be pissed. He already kind of is if you watch the match. Remember when
Mhm.
Holmes and them played?
Oh, yeah.
And Draymond the entire time was just hammering Klay Thompson. And then all that stuff came out after, basically. So.
Yep. All right, learn funniest best. What we learned from the weekend, funniest from the weekend, best from the weekend. We go around the room. What I learned this weekend is so Tony Gwynn was we all know was an awesome baseball player, was also an all-conference point guard at San Diego State. But what I learned this weekend was that Tony Gwynn has more assists in college, 590, than strikeouts in his 20-year Major League Baseball career, 430.
One more time.
Tony Gwynn has more assists in college in his 3 years playing basketball, 590, than strikeouts in his 20-year Major League career,
He's the all-time,
434.
at least at one time, he was the all-time assist leader at San Diego State.
That's like 2 years of Adam Dunn.
Yeah. 590 assists in college, 434 strikeouts in his 20-year Major League Baseball career. So I saw that tweet. I'm like, good God, man. That's just unbelievable. What did you learn, Sterling, this weekend?
Adam Dunn actually would be close. 222 strikeouts and 195 are his most two in a given season. So Joey Gallo probably has done it, but I don't feel like looking it up right now.
That's pretty much, you're right. That's right around, you're talking about like 10 strikouts away from 2 years of him being Tony Gwynn's entire 20-year career.
Have you known me to ever be hyperbolic? No. What I learned is that fish bite. We were there at the lake and we're all just chilling on the lily pad and having some beers, some ICBs. And,
they'll go off your nipples.
Did you get your nipples?
Well, that's what it is.
Yeah.
They go for the nipples, not my nipples.
Whoa! You had your shirt off? It's weird.
Shocking.
Well, no, they didn't go after his nipples. He had a shirt on. Weird. In the water, he puts a shirt on, but out of the water, it's tarps
You
off.
put duct tape over mine.
Yeah.
So that
So
makes sense.
Fish were biting the boys' nipples, and it got 3 dudes, and we found out it's all 3 guys from the same hometown. So they were very like hometown oriented. These fish, they're like, we smell the Portageville in the water.
Portageville.
It's a
I
small
thought you said
town.
we
in
smell
Semo.
the pour.
No.
We smell the
Portage.
pour on that person. Let's go bite his nipple.
The Portageville. It's a town in Semo. But yeah, it went after Jansen, his brother Luke, and his friend Lit. Which I also learned that Lit is not
Dude's
short
name is
for
Lit?
Yeah, not short for a guy who gets after it. Although he does get after it, Lit does.
So that's just his real name is Lit.
It's
Does
short-
he hang out with Blaze Alexander?
It's short for Little, because his name's Eric, but it's short for Little Floyd. But when you're in a small town, it's whose boy was that? That's Lit Floyd right there. So he's always
Did he
gone-
sound like that?
a little bit. Yeah, so he just goes by Lit. Learn that.
I like it.
It's a good dude.
Little dude.
Yeah, they'll get you.
Yeah, those fish,
those
they
perch
bite.
or whatever they are. Yeah, they'll get you.
They'll get you.
How big were the other boys? Was it a smaller thing with the bite in the nipples? Was it more of a stature of these particular individuals?
One boy was bigger.
Okay, there you go.
Country
All right.
boy's a little bit,
Country boy.
little
Good old
sturdier.
boy.
But
That boy
Jansen and Luke, they're skinny fellas. So we were a little surprised by that. But it's all the same hometown. So
Mick, you've had your nipples attacked by fish before?
By Sterling, yes.
Wasn't it a sterling fish?
It was, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, down Lake of the Ozarks, they'll get you.
Yeah.
Just kind of floating out there. You just gotta accept it. Like
Accept that your nipples are gonna
every
get bitten?
5 minutes or so, you're gonna get and just get over it. More Bush Light helps.
yeah, it did. It helped me.
Maybe that's what the fish were looking for. They thought you were lactating. You know what? Let's get some Bush Light here.
Brother.
It's the only way we're going to get some drinks. What'd you learn this weekend?
Well,
Nick?
my oldest is getting old. He's like an adult basically, and he didn't want to see family movie night Saturday. He didn't want to see Quiet Place Day One. I'm like, let's see Quiet Place Day One. No, him and my daughter and my wife wanted to see Inside Out 2, so we got outvoted, my other son, so we went to Inside Out 2, which was fine. It was good. And then I learned during that Beetlejuice 2 is coming out, and I cannot wait for Beetlejuice 2. Michael Keaton is back. Winona Ryder's in it.
I learned that Beetlejuice 2 is coming out from talking with you.
Yeah, last night. That's all I can talk about.
I know.
Beetlejuice 2.
I'm pumped, man.
Why did it take so
Beetlejuice 2 is
long?
coming out right now from listening to Jason talk about it with
Whoa.
Mick right now. Yeah.
Dylan, did you hear it from Sterling?
Yeah, he beat me to it. That's what I heard as well.
Heard it from Sterling. Who heard it from me?
4 degrees of separation.
Heard it from a friend who. Heard it from a friend who. Heard it from a friend that Beetlejuice 2 is coming out.
Oh, my God. Mark that.
Anyway, Dylan, what'd you learn besides that?
So I learned that you better enjoy the draft while the NFL brings it to your city because you'll get 1 year, and then they're going to have it at the Sphere like they did Radio City Music Hall for years to come because I don't know if you saw the NHL draft this
I
weekend.
saw pictures of it, yeah.
It was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And it was packed, and it does kind of look like a futuristic Radio City Music Hall, and
Interesting.
you're already in Vegas,
Yeah.
so I just feel like as soon as every town, and this is a while away, but
Yeah.
every town that they want to go to will get a chance,
Yeah, well.
and then they'll do every year at the
Yep.
Sphere.
Chiefs got it.
Big 12 football media day is going on there at Vegas next
the
month.
Sphere?
This month. I don't
next week?
think so.
Is
I
that
got
next
the
week or the
release.
week after? Is SEC
It's
Media
like the
Day next week?
12th-ish.
I know it's not the Sphere, but I don't want to say I know.
Yeah, the
but
12th
Can I have a hot
is
take really quickly?
a week from
Yeah.
Friday. Yeah, go ahead.
Another
Sphere's
one?
awesome. Sphere's really cool. Badass.
Cool.
Love
July
it.
9th and 10th,
But,
sorry.
But
Oh, that's next week.
And it's at Allegiant.
is Vegas the most overrated
Tuesday,
city?
Wednesday.
I think Vegas is the most overrated city.
Vegas and Nashville. But Nashville's up there.
And
I haven't
New-
been to Nashville yet.
It's it's overpriced, overrated.
I think
Overrun.
I think Vegas can still be great and overrated at the same time because people kind of blow it up to what it's not, but
Yeah.
it's still pretty great.
Yeah.
I had a great time. First time I went to Vegas was for the Super Bowl. It was great. Went to the Sphere. I had a blast. It was super cool.
Yeah.
But also, it's like, I don't know why I would ever just like go back. Like I don't know why I'd ever just go and spend like a long weekend there.
Well, you can go to some shows. I mean, like
lot
at
of
least
shows.
in Vegas, you can go to some shows. You can go and gamble. Like in Nashville, you're spending a crap ton of money to go from one bar to the next to hear the same act.
Disagree.
Every band sounds the exact same from one bar to the next that the previous one
Could not
sounded like.
disagree more.
Nashville's
They're
got to be
all the
way
same.
more expensive.
It's
cheap flights
so
to
much
Vegas.
more
You can get
expensive.
cheap rooms.
You can drive to
It's
Nashville.
so much more expensive. So overrated is Nashville.
8 hours, yeah.
I don't mind Nashville. actually.
Charging you $20 to get in. Well, we have a band tonight. So does the bar next door, and it's the same person. It's the same sound.
Guy and a guitar.
It's the same sound.
I get the Nashville pop country's ass, but if you get like the real country, like you get the fiddle, the steel guitar out, I'm in.
Yeah, you had it at that bar right over there.
I'm a big steel guitar
Why am I
guy.
paying $20 to come to this one with just a different band that sounds the same? Well, this is a different band. I know, but they sound the same. Is that a cover of that band over there?
Yeah,
What was your
look up
funniest?
the sky to see if Morgan Wallen's throwing a chair down at you.
Yeah, it gets dangerous. Apparently,
It
chairs
does,
do.
yeah.
fly.
Apparently it does. Yeah, Haktua, you got that going
Haktua
on there.
girl.
You never know what's going to happen on the streets of Nashville. What was the funniest for you from the weekend, Sterling?
So we played golf. We had about 38 ounces of margaritas, and we've been drinking all day too. So we're all pretty. We're gone. We're having a good time.
Lit is lit.
Yeah, we're all having
Lubed up, ready to
we're-
go.
Well, and you know how guys are. How you're like, I could beat you in this. I could beat you in that. So we saw a basketball goal driving into the place.
I feel like that's how you are. I don't know. None of all the guys I know are
No,
like that.
Well,
Okay.
alphas, dog.
Jesus Christ.
So told someone to pick up a basketball, and we played 3-on-3. We had a little 3-on-3 tournament after all of the booze. And the court was the slickest court we've all played on in our entire life.
Excuses
No,
coming in.
I won.
Excuses sounds like
I won.
Sounds like a beta thing to say.
Hey,
Excuses.
I won, dog. Come on.
God.
I won. But as we were leaving, some
You'd
like
think we'd be hearing this story if he lost.
Yeah, great point.
It's
Great
inconsequential. I just wanted to set the stage. Some 10-year-old sturdy kid like Nikolai. Well, like Nikolai Jokic as a kid starts walking and he's got his Crocs on sport mode and he's left-handed and he starts just shooting around as we're leaving. And the Bachelor, he's pretty gone at this point. He's playing some pretty rough defense. As we're leaving, just turns to the kid and says, serious voice, "Hey kid, you remind me of a young Jalen Brunson. Keep it up." And then just walks away. Just walks away. And he goes, Don't you guys think he looks like a young Jalen Brunson? Mind you, this kid looks like a young Nikolai Jokic. He's just left-handed.
I feel like both look different.
Very
back in the
different.
day,
Very different.
Yeah, lots of ways.
I couldn't think of many people who looked less like Jalen Brunson in my life. But we're all sitting here wondering, hopefully that kid just stayed there for another hour, just like, yeah, guys.
It's like
that
working on his
random drunk guy.
crossover.
He was, though. He just started busting. He lost the ball a lot. Couldn't really handle the ball very well. Not a ball player. But
not like you.
It just made me laugh. Doesn't that guy look like a young Jalen Brunson? No, he does not.
But you won though.
Yeah, I won. Yeah,
You guys won, huh?
Good for
you.
you.
Probably handled the rock. You probably point guard when you won, right?
shooting guard. I
yeah,
just,
sure.
I just launched.
Spot up.
What are the positions in 3-on-3? Is there point, shooting guard, and
It's more
a stretch
positionless.
four?
It's
more
positionless.
positionless ball. Yeah.
It's space and pace with 3-on-3.
But it wasn't really much pace because you couldn't move because no one wanted to tear an ACL and no one had any basketball shoes out either.
You guys had
We had Bush Light that was
you had golf shoes on though.
the what?
Slipping around the
Yeah,
court.
it was-
This court is so slippery. Well, you're wearing your golf shoes, so maybe don't put on your metal spikes to go play baseball and playing some basketball on the court. Mick, what was the funniest for you?
Well, since it's listed as a comedy, I guess watching all of The Bear this weekend is the funniest for me. Although it's not funny, right? It's not a comedy. It's a drama.
It's a drama.
And they got really dramatic and really in their feelings this season, and a lot of flashbacks, and not much happened.
Oh, no. I'm
I'll
4
leave it at
episodes
that.
in, so.
You know what I liken it to? Remember that game for the Royals against Seattle? That third game they could have swept, right? And they didn't play. It was on a Sunday. They didn't play well all game long. But at the end, they came back and they tied it. And you're like, okay, it's going to happen. And then the 10th inning, well, like the 10th episode came around, and it was awful. It was awful.
That was the MJ Melendez 2-run home run in the with 2 outs in the 9th.
Yes,
when
to
they
get
lost.
him. Yes, but they also gave up 3, and then in the
and
10th.
then
Yeah.
Renfro
Hit
had the
2,
solo
yep.
shot, or the
2
2-run
more.
home run.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like, oh, they still lost. But yeah,
awful 10th. So that's
good to
I guess
know.
my funniest. I guess.
Something to look forward to as I'm on
Sorry.
episode 4.
I told you I wasn't going to give you my opinion, then I
No, I mean it's
then
not.
give it to you.
I mean, it doesn't make me stop. I mean, I'm still going to watch it, but maybe it makes the 10th episode better if I'm going in with low expectations.
Sounds less like an opinion and more like a fact there, Mick.
Going into
What's that?
Your thoughts. It wasn't really an opinion. I think you were stating facts right there.
Because I mean,
it was my opinion.
In season 2, going into Fishes and Forks, it's like you're gearing up for what is viewed as like one of the best episodes of TV ever. Like, all right, well, let's get ready for Fishes, and it lives up to it.
It was awesome,
and it was
And
amazing.
then came Forks,
and then Forks the next week, and somehow they were able to add on to Fishes with another phenomenal
That's
episode.
part of the problem. How great
Yes.
season 2 was,
God,
and
it
how
was
it
so
ended,
good, man.
And now we're comparing season 3 to that.
Yeah,
So,
that's rough. I'm worried season 3 was more of a, we were ready to end it after season 2, but we got picked up, and this is going to be a lot of money. So let's go ahead and make the season 3. How do we get these character development? What was the funniest for you, Dylan?
So today is Bobby Bonilla Day.
Bobby Bo.
Where he gets paid $1.193 million from the New York Mets.
How many more years?
2035.
My God, he'll be dead.
The
He'll be
funniest
dead
part
by
about
then.
this is Adam Schefter. He's had a couple the big lofty attainable goals quote.
That's right.
He tweets, "Happy Bobby Bonilla Day." But Bonilla is set to collect $1.193 million from the Mets. All that. Then just waits till the end, which is $208,000 more than the $985,000 base salary that the 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy will be making next year. So, Brock Purdy catching strays on Bobby Bonilla Day from Schefter.
He needs to find Bobby's agent and sign him.
That's too bad. My funniest comes from last night. It's the clip in there. It's clip number 5. So Ted Lasso, Brendan Hunt, otherwise known as Beards. So Men in Blazers.
Or he just Beard singular, right?
Beard, sorry,
the
not
Beards plural
that
was
was
here.
my fault. Yeah, that's Beard. But in Ted Lasso,
Totally different people.
Men in Blazers hosted a get-together at Madrid Theater that had Eric Stone Street and Matt Beasler was there. But it was Men in Blazers and Brendan Hunt were the two hosts. Beard getting ready for this match tonight, but last night it was tomorrow night. And they asked Brendan Hunt to give his motivational speech to the U.S. men's national team getting ready for Uruguay. And here's Beard from Ted Lasso giving his motivational speech to the U.S. men's national team, mind you, here in Kansas City.
Now I just have to speak from what my current experience is here. Assuming I got here to Kansas City, and then I flew back to where they were, and I got on that bus, and then I came back with them on the bus, I would tell them, hey, guys, Kansas City didn't start out great for me. I got to the Airbnb, and you know sometimes you go to Airbnb and like the remote control is just missing. It was, and I couldn't find it. And then when I finally found it, I turned it on, and it's like some kind of crazy-ass cable package where I can't find anything, and like the remote doesn't even really work. Now, it was, oddly, I didn't know this existed, but it was on the FIFA channel. Apparently there's a FIFA channel. But hey, I don't need to watch the Croatia-Brazil game from 2022 again. So, that's fine.
This
Put
is a
that away.
speech to
That's
the
fine,
team.
getting back into it. Because I'm reveling in the Kansas City of it and the USMNT of it, because let us not forget, yes, shit went bad after that red card in Atlanta, but there was fight after that. There was fight. And here's the thing. Beyond all that, we are in Kansas City, and I know for a fact that there's a winning vibe going on here, because I know the Royals won their last game, and I know Sporting won their last game, I know the Current won their last game, and I hear tell the Kansas City Chiefs won their last game as well. So maybe that winning vibe this city provides will keep on going, because here's one more thing. When I turned on that TV this morning, it was still the FIFA channel, and you know why? And this is absolutely true. John O'Brien's face was on my television this morning, because they were showing, at the exact moment I turned the TV on, they were showing footage of the U.S. beating Portugal 3-2 in 2002. The last time we had to play such a highly ranked team. And all of that speaks to me and says it's going to be one hell of a game tomorrow, and we just might shock the world. And that'll be because of Kansas City. So let's go play the game.
That's a speech to the team.
That's really good.
Yeah, loved it.
Strong.
Really escalated. Really
Beard.
finished strong there.
Beard and Hunt. Yes, absolutely. Then that started. Then the USA chant started after that. So that was my funniest. Best. Let's go quickly. Mick, your best from the weekend.
My best was Dan Ige. He is a UFC fighter. We watched the UFC 303 on Saturday night. He was one of the co-main events. A lot of times in UFC, you catch a fight late. Like this guy was only told a month ago that he was in this fight. He had to prepare, didn't have time. Dan Ige was told 4 hours before the bout. He lives in Vegas that can he fight? He said absolutely. So he ran up to wherever they were fighting and fought this guy, one of the best whatever class he's in, fighters in the world from Brazil, and almost won. He won the third round, lost the first two by point, lost 29-28, but everybody, it was like Rocky. Everybody had shifted over, was chanting his name at the end. It was well done. 4 hours notice took a UFC co-main event fight.
Yeah, usually when you pay pay-per-view for UFC and the co-main event is like two unranked guys fighting, you're pissed. But no, Mick's right. As soon as we heard the story and everything going on around it, it wasn't.
Did you see it?
Oh yeah.
Oh, it was great. And then the main event was amazing knockout there, Pereira.
And it ended the Cold War.
It did.
Just like Rocky.
If Ige can change, and Lopez can change,
Vegas can change, anybody can change. What was the best for you, Dylan?
His weight changed that morning.
Just Joe Delaney's celebration over the weekend. I always love that.
awesome.
So.
My best was the Casey Star Scholar athletes announced. Zoe Harabe from Barstow, track and field, and it makes sense with Mick in here with us because Colin McAllister from Mill Valley. So a connection with both of us.
He's a great wrestler going to Nebraska. Played football for a while, so we know that in the family well. His dad was a trainer at Mill Valley for a while, and excellent student too. I think my wife taught him in 4th grade, and so that was awesome. Just to be one of those guys from your school, but to win it out of like the hundreds of schools out there, 100 plus.
Yep,
that's awesome. Well done, Colin.
So Zoe Harabe, Barstow, track and field, pole vaulter. And a lot of other things as well. So congratulations to both of them. Best for you, Sterling.
38-ounce margaritas, lily pads, Busch Light, lake slides, playing golf at Buffalo Ridge.
I get it. Warzone next. right, that'll do it here on this Monday edition of the show. Thank you, Mick. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Good time.
No, thank you.
Go Monday. Go USA.
Go USA.
USA.
Well done knowing the KC sports scene.
I know,
and then
right?
apparently he knows Copa America very well.
Yeah,
Good
Brendan
job,
Hunt.
Brendan
Nice
Hunt.
job, Beard, with the I hear tell the Chiefs have won their last game. But that is right. Royals, Sporting, Current,
good
and the
weekend.
Chiefs have all won their most recent games.
Good weekend.
It's time for the USMNT. Get a little win going tonight. Get into that knockout round. Although some people might be disappointed because that may mean that Berhalter would keep his job. And there are a lot of people that are looking
You
at
would
it and going,
sacrifice the Copa America
"You know
for
what,
the World Cup,
it's,
right?
Yeah, considering that they don't even invite us every year. Or
I just care
each
about the
tournament.
wins, baby. Just win.
It's all about the W's. Was this a win today, Mick?
Total W.
Draw.